facing an unstoppable catastrophe. If you could start over, what choice would you make? The protagonist Jojo, carrying the memories of the Qian family, unexpectedly traveled back to the time before the catastrophe. At this moment, he was standing in front of a cattle pen with a long knife, intending to slaughter all the cattle. The neighbors couldn't understand it. They thought Jojo must have been provoked somehow. Li Qing, the woman Jojo, Qian family, liked, was also standing among the crowd. She thought Jojo wanted to sell all the cattle to gather enough bride price for her. She said to Jojo, "Jojo, just give up. Young Master Lin has already said he's willing to pay 200,000 yuan plus a car to marry me. You should give up already." The onlookers hearing this also advised Jojo not to be so foolish. There was no need to do all this for a woman. An auntie even offered to introduce him to a new girlfriend if he changed his name. At this moment, Jojo ignored what the others said and said to Li Qing, "Are you done talking? If you're done, get lost. Don't waste my time." Li Qing, seeing Jojo refusing to listen, turned away in anger and left. At that moment, a voice rang out. "Second son. What are you doing?" Jojo turned around and saw his parents from the Qian family, who had already passed away. They were now standing right in front of him. Jojo held back his tears and embraced his parents. He whispered hoarsely, "Thank goodness. Thank goodness. This time, I will definitely protect you well." Jojo's parents were confused about what was going on with him. Jojo could see their confusion, but he didn't explain the reason. He just said to them, "I'm not crazy. These cattle must be slaughtered today. If you trust me, don't stop me." Jojo's parents heard this and looked at each other in confusion. After a moment of silence, Father Joe sighed and said, "I don't know why you want to slaughter the cattle, but you're a college graduate we raised. You must know more than we do." Then he hugged Jojo and walked towards the cattle pen to slaughter the cattle together. The onlookers urged Mother Joe to stop Father Joe, saying he shouldn't go crazy with Jojo. Mother Joe shouted back loudly, "You're the crazy one." Then she also walked toward the cattle pen to help Jojo and his father slaughter the cattle. Jojo checked the time, realizing that there were less than 4 hours left before the apocalypse struck. With just the three of them slaughtering cattle, there was no way they could finish in time. Thinking of this, Jojo shouted loudly at the crowd that was about to leave, "3 people come help slaughter cattle. 500 yuan per person." The onlookers who were about to leave immediately stopped and rushed over at once. Jojo randomly picked 3 people from the crowd. With their help, all the cattle were slaughtered in no time. Then Jojo started contacting cattle traders. He told them he was willing to sell at half the market price. After some time, the slaughtered cattle were all taken away by the traders. Watching the traders leave, Mother Joe said to Jojo, "Xiao Zhou, this way. We've lost tens of thousands of yuan." Hearing this, Jojo still didn't explain anything. He just took the money from selling the cattle and prepared to drive away. Before leaving, he repeatedly urged his parents to lock the doors. "No matter what happens outside, don't open the door. Wait for me to come back." Having experienced the previous catastrophe, Jojo knew what the family needed most now was weapons, as well as medicine and gunpowder. So he drove toward the town. There were now only 2 hours left before the catastrophe. Jojo recalled that at the start of the last catastrophe, only some livestock suddenly mutated. They turned into brutal, bloodthirsty beasts and began attacking any living creatures they saw. Not long after, humans bitten by them also started showing the same symptoms. They lost their sanity, felt no pain, and craved fresh flesh and blood. Anyone bitten or scratched by them would inevitably become infected. Within a month, more than half the population was infected. The world fell into chaos. After nearly a year, There were fewer than 1 million human survivors. In his previous life, Jojo faced the sudden catastrophe. Completely helplessly. His parents, his elder brother, and his younger sister all died during the catastrophe. Now reborn to this moment. This time, he would never allow the tragedy to happen again. Jojo then purchased large amounts of medicine and tools in town. He remembered that during the previous catastrophe, it was because he lacked enough gunpowder that he failed to maintain control. So he went to Lin Jia, the local thug. Holding 100,000 yuan, he expressed his desire to buy gunpowder. Lin Jia looked at the 100,000 yuan in the bag and said, "Isn't this the money you were going to use?" Lin Jia paused, as if he realized something, then suddenly burst into laughter. He continued, "Jojo, you're really infatuated. You actually gathered 100,000 yuan for Li Qing's bride price." Standing aside, Li Qing thought Lin Jia misunderstood and hurriedly explained, "Boss Lin, it's not like that. I have nothing to do with him anymore." Jojo ignored Lin Jia's mockery and still said to Lin Jia, "I want to use this 100,000 yuan to buy 1,000 jin of black powder." Lin Jia slowly put away his smile and said, "I say, college boy, are you messing with me? I'm a legitimate businessman. I don't touch illegal deals." Jojo smiled slightly. "Whether you're breaking the law or not, I don't know, but last December at the Chongfeng site, a woman in blue clothes. She might know better, right?" Hearing this, Lin Jia put his hands together under his chin and stared at Jojo gloomily. Jojo continued, 100,000 yuan. Sell me black powder. This way, you'll also have leverage over me. How about it?" After a moment of silence, Lin Jia said to Li Qin, "Shao Qin, there are some damp gunpowder stocks in the warehouse. Take them and give them to our college boy." Although Li Qin knew Lin Jia was letting her bear the risk of selling gunpowder, she had no choice but to agree after siding with the Lin family. She then walked outside. As she passed by Jojo, Jojo said to her, "Uncle Li used to take good care of me. My whole family is grateful to him. If you encounter difficulties in the future, I'll help you once." Li Qin glanced at Jojo but said nothing and continued walking. Jojo didn't mind her ignoring him. He turned to Lin Jia and said, "Pleasure doing business." Then he also walked away. At this moment, the silent Lin Jia stared at Jojo's departing figure and instead said to Lin Jia, "Pleasure doing business." Then he also walked outside. At this moment, the silent Lin Jia watched Jojo's departing figure. A fierce light flashed across his face as he said, "Interesting. Jojo." After buying the gunpowder from Lin Jia, Jojo quickly rushed home. When Jojo arrived at the gate of his house, he realized that there was only half an hour left until the catastrophe. He thought to himself, "As long as nothing unexpected happens, we'll make it." Jojo shouted toward the house, "Dad, Mom, I'm back." Soon after, the gate opened. The one who opened the door was Jojo's elder brother. Seeing Jojo, he immediately asked, "What exactly happened today? Why did you sell all the cattle at home?" Jojo only replied that he would explain later and asked, "Where's little sister?" His elder brother replied, "She hasn't come back yet." Jojo said in confusion, "What? She hasn't come home yet?" He immediately thought that in his previous life, at this time, his little sister had already returned home. But now, why hasn't she come back yet? Could it be because of his actions that caused a butterfly effect? There was no time to think more. He immediately said to his elder brother, "I'm going to find her now. Remember what I told you. Whatever you do, don't leave the house. I'll bring little sister back soon." Jojo's elder brother was about to ask what had happened, but Jojo had already driven away. On the road, Jojo thought, on the first day of the last catastrophe, most of the changes happened to animals. Very few humans mutated directly. But in the town school, places where people gathered, collapsed much faster than in villages. Thinking of this, Jojo couldn't help but speed up again. Suddenly, the car hit something. Jojo tried hard to control the car and steered it to the roadside. Then he looked back behind the vehicle. But the sight shocked Jojo. It was a mutated dog, staring at Jojo fiercely. Jojo thought, not good. The catastrophe started earlier than expected. An hour earlier, at Jojo's little sister's school, the news had spread that Jojo, in order to gather bride price, had sold all the cattle at home. Jojo's little sister's classmates openly mocked him in class, saying Jojo was the #1 lovesick fool of Qingshan town. It must be a headache to have him as a brother, they said. Jojo's little sister, Jo Ying, simply lowered her head and kept writing, ignoring them. But Jo Ying's classmates continued mocking her, saying the girl he liked had already fallen for a rich family, the Ling family. They must have problems in the Zhou family too, one sneered. Before she could finish her sentence, Jo Ying slammed her desk and glared at her. Jo Ying's classmate pretended to be scared, but still mocked her, saying the Zhou family were all idiots. Jo Ying couldn't hold back anymore. She grabbed the girl's phone and threw it hard at her. The classmate shouted angrily, Jo Ying, are you asking for death? Jo Ying suddenly glanced outside the classroom, then walked over to pick up the dropped phone, and loudly said, Xiaoya, I'm sorry. I accidentally knocked your phone off. Just as she finished speaking, their homeroom teacher appeared behind Jo Ying. The teacher immediately confiscated the phone and scolded Li Xiaoya. The teacher also told Jo Ying to quietly return to her seat. As Jo Ying passed by Li Xiaoya, she whispered, Sorry, Xiaoya. I didn't see the teacher coming. I'll be more careful next time. Li Xiaoya lowered her face, gritting her teeth and muttering Jo Ying's name. After school, it was raining heavily outside. Inside the classroom, Jo Ying was pushed to the ground. Li Xiaoya stood arrogantly before her, looking down and saying, You sure had a lot to say earlier. Why are you silent now? Li Xiaoya squatted down, grabbed Jo Ying's hair fiercely, and continued. You dared to embarrass me in front of the whole class. Come on, hum a few more times for me. Jo Ying endured the pain and stared at Li Xiaoya. She had completely forgotten that today they were supposed to be on duty together. Li Xiaoya, seeing Jo Ying remain silent, pulled a small knife from her pocket. She said to Jo Ying, Not talking, huh? Then let me help you speak. Meanwhile, Jojo had rushed from home and had just arrived at the school gate. He found students inside the school, screaming and running in panic. They shouted run as they fled outside. Meanwhile, Li Xiaoya was still threatening Jo Ying. Suddenly, the knife fell from her hand. Li Xiaoya covered her mouth with her hand, and blood started spurting from her mouth. Seeing this, Jo Ying nervously asked, Li Xiaoya, are you okay? Seeing Li Xiaoya not responding, she immediately ran outside, shouting for help. But she was horrified to discover that outside the school building, chaos had broken out among the students. Everyone was running frantically. Jo Ying stood helplessly in place. A student who had turned into a zombie noticed the noise behind. He roared and lunged at Jo Ying. Jo Ying turned and collapsed on the ground, barely dodging the zombie's attack. Covering her ears, Jo Ying crouched in fear. She then saw Li Xiaoya, who had been coughing up blood earlier, lowering her head and walking toward her. Jo Ying softly called Li Xiaoya's name, but the strange-behaving Li Xiaoya said nothing. Instead, she slowly raised her head, revealing a twisted smile, and pounced toward Jo Ying. Jo Ying crossed her arms in front of her chest, barely blocking Li Xiaoya's attack. Finally unable to hold back, Jo Ying cried out loudly, Help! Damn it, brother! As soon as she shouted, Li Xiaoya was kicked away by Zhou, who arrived just in time. Holding a long knife, Zhou looked at the mutated students. He spoke slowly. Your cries for help were really embarrassing. The zombie that first attacked Zhou Ying lunged toward Zhou, facing the charging zombie. Zhou calmly swung his blade, easily decapitating the zombie. He turned back to Zhou Ying and continued. I could hear you screaming from far away. So I came here just to laugh at you. Hearing Zhou mock her, Zhou Ying blushed slightly. She scolded angrily. Shut up, you stupid brother. While they were talking, most of the students outside had already been infected. Heavy rain poured down, like a giant net, hanging in front of them. Zhou took Zhou Ying and hurried home. Driving the car, Zhou directly ran over a zombie devouring a corpse. Seeing this, Zhou Ying pretended to stay calm and said, Brother, that's thrilling. What kind of zombie game is this? It feels so real. Zhou easily saw the fear hidden in Zhou Ying's heart. He comforted her and explained. The world has changed. There will be more and more flesh-eating zombies. We have to adapt and do our best to survive. I will definitely protect our family. Hearing this, Zhou Ying finally relaxed and smiled warmly. Before long, Zhou and Zhou Ying finally made it home. Their family, seeing them safe, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Zhou then asked if anything had happened at home. His mother replied, Someone was shouting outside earlier. But your father and I didn't dare open the door. Now it's quiet again. Hearing this, Zhou thought to himself that during the catastrophe in his previous life, only 3 to 5 people disappeared from the village. The newly mutated zombies were afraid of sunlight, so they had enough time during the day to prepare for defense. Now Zhou was worried whether they could survive the night. At this moment, Zhou's elder brother asked him why he bought so many supplies, as if preparing for a war. Zhou simply said he would explain later, and told him and their father to move the supplies inside. He asked them to continue guarding the house, while he needed to go find someone. Zhou realized at the school that something had changed in his body. Now was the perfect time to test it. The person he was looking for had special abilities in his previous life. If he could get this person's help, it would be a great boost. Meanwhile, the mutated zombies in the village were besieging a house. Inside, Sha Bingbing was struggling to hold the door shut. Sha Bingbing thought that outside were villagers who had gone mad over lost relatives. She tried to comfort them, saying that the village committee was working hard to find their missing family members. She told them not to panic. Suddenly, a zombie's hand broke through the door and reached inside. Sha Bingbing screamed and quickly dodged. Then people inside the house heard outside. After a brief moment, the crazy villagers were all knocked down. Sha Bingbing and the others were still shocked, wondering what happened. Then they saw Zhou striking a cool pose at the entrance. Everyone in the room was amazed that their savior was actually Zhou. Suddenly, Zhou flashed to Sha Bingbing's side, killing a zombie that tried to sneak attack her. Sha Bingbing stared at Zhou in a daze. Zhou grabbed Sha Bingbing's face to check if there was zombie blood in her eyes or mouth. Sha Bingbing was the person Zhou was looking for. But right now, he couldn't tell yet if she had the awakened abilities she had after the catastrophe in the previous life. Zhou asked Sha Bingbing if she had been bitten or scratched by zombies. Sha Bingbing shook her head to indicate no. At this time, village official Huang Dao pulled Sha Bingbing aside and questioned Zhou. If there's a conflict, it can be resolved. Why did you kill so many villagers? Zhou explained. I didn't kill anyone. These are no longer humans. They have turned into zombies. If a normal person's wound is contaminated by zombie blood, they will become one too. Huang Dao said in disbelief. This isn't some novel or comic. How could there be zombies He claimed that Jojo had just killed villagers who had lost their families. He added that his wife, Axon, had also gone missing. And he planned to report to the police station. Jojo calmly replied, "Calling the police is useless now." Just then, applause interrupted him. A voice came from outside, saying, "Listen everyone, this murderer is so arrogant." The ones speaking were Lin Jia and Li Qin, who had sold gunpowder to Jojo. Lin Jia continued, "Such a vicious murderer. He killed dozens and says calling the police is useless." Other village officials, upon hearing this, shouted together to arrest Jojo and take him to the police. Lin Jia continued mocking Jojo, saying even the zombie excuse was unbelievable. "Next you'll probably say you have superpowers too?" At this point, Sha Bingbing quickly tried to calm the villagers, telling everyone to stay calm. She said the village committee would help everyone and wouldn't let a murderer go unpunished. But she also admitted that Jojo had just saved them, and those who attacked them had clearly lost their minds. Sha Bingbing wanted to explain further, but Jojo interrupted her. He thanked Sha Bingbing for her help and said to the villagers that he could prove those people had turned into zombies. He also said he could find their missing relatives, but someone would need to come with him to verify it. Then Jojo turned toward Lin Jia, who was still watching the drama, and said, "Since you doubt me so much, how about you come with me and see for yourself? How about it? Do you dare to come?" Lin Jia looked at Jojo grimly. In his heart, he recalled earlier today, when Jojo had purchased a lot of supplies, even stockpiling gunpowder. And now, strange things were happening. Jojo must know something. Moreover, Jojo also knew about the murder Lin Jia committed back then. Therefore, in Lin Jia's heart, Jojo was already marked for death. At this moment, Jojo said, "So many villagers have disappeared suddenly. And the only place nearby that could hide so many people is that forest behind us." Then he continued to Lin Jia, "Since you claim zombies don't exist, why don't you come with me to verify it? Or are you scared? Afraid?" Lin Jia pretended to remain calm as he looked at Jojo, and casually said, "I'm just an ordinary person. Of course I'd be afraid of a murderer like you." After a pause, Lin Jia added, "But for the safety of the villagers, and to find their missing relatives, I'll go with you. Why not? But I'll bring a few trusted men with me. You don't mind, right?" Although Lin Jia talked about protecting villagers, in reality, he was thinking about forcing Jojo to reveal his secrets. At this moment, Sha Bingbing also volunteered to go with them. Other village officials tried to persuade her it was too dangerous. They said not to act rashly. But Sha Bingbing replied, "We're village officials. Now that the village chief is absent, we should lead by example." Jojo asked, "Where is the village chief?" Sha Bingbing replied, "This afternoon, after receiving news of missing villagers, the chief went out to search for them, and hasn't returned since." Upon hearing this, Jojo thought of something, but didn't say it aloud. After hearing Sha Bingbing's words, other village officials mustered their courage and said they would also go. Soon, the group drove toward the forest behind the village. When they arrived at the forest, they got out of their vehicles and immediately saw the village chief's car. Everyone hurried to check. Someone touched the hood and said, "From the heat of the engine, the person must have left a while ago." Others also mentioned they couldn't reach the village chief's phone. At this moment, Jojo recalled that in his previous life, the first zombie tide broke out here 3 days later. Back then, they didn't make it in time to investigate the cause. If everything developed the same as his past life, then now was the perfect time to handle it early. It was also a good opportunity to gain Sha Bingbing's trust. Thinking this, Jojo said, "Looks like we've found the right place. Now we can only keep moving deeper into the forest." He then started walking deeper inside. Everyone agreed and followed. Lin Jia kept a grim face. Saying nothing. He just silently followed behind. As they walked, they called out the names of their missing friends and family. After a long time, Sha Bingbing said, "This forest is too big. We've been walking for so long and haven't seen a soul." Jojo looked at the footprints and broken branches in the grass, and answered, "No. There were lots of people here recently." In his heart, he knew it was a sign of zombies gathering. But he wondered why so many zombies appeared on the very first day of the catastrophe. Jojo looked ahead and knew there must be a reason for everything happening. The group continued moving forward, heading deeper into the forest, determined to uncover the truth. Before long, they arrived at the entrance of a cave. Jojo said, "It's too dangerous for so many of us to go in together. I'll go in and check first." At this moment, Lin Jia questioned, "You'll go alone? What if this is where you committed the crime? Are you trying to clean up the scene and destroy the evidence?" Jojo looked speechlessly at Lin Jia and said, "Lin Jia, you really are talkative and annoying." Then he spoke fiercely, "If you're not afraid of dying, then come with me and see." Lin Jia's expression changed, realizing that Jojo's tone was genuinely murderous. Thinking of this, Lin Jia sneered, even more determined to uncover Jojo's secrets. Could it be that Jojo's secret was hidden in this cave? Just then, from the cave behind Jojo, the sound of footsteps echoed. Jojo was just about to turn his head to look when a figure lunged at him. Fortunately, Jojo reacted quickly and easily dodged the attack. Huang Dao, standing behind Jojo, realized that the person who suddenly appeared was his missing wife, Ashin. He immediately shouted Ashin and slowly walked toward her. Seeing this, Jojo quickly shouted at Huang Dao, "Wait! Don't touch her!" Just as he finished speaking, Huang Dao's wife, Ashin, opened her bloody mouth to bite him. Fortunately, Jojo arrived in time, blocking her mouth with his long knife and pushing Huang Dao away. Huang Dao collapsed to the ground in shock, in disbelief, still calling Ashin's name, trying to ask her what had happened. Jojo said, "She's mutated. She's no longer Ashin." After speaking, under everyone's gaze, he killed Ashin. Huang Dao stared at Jojo in disbelief and said, "You actually killed Ashin. How dare you? You murderer!" Seeing his wife killed before his eyes, Huang Dao lost his mind and grabbed a baseball bat, furiously smashing it at Jojo. But Jojo casually slapped him to the ground. Jojo said calmly to him, "Whether you're angry, resentful, or regretful, no matter what you're feeling now, you can't change the fact that your wife turned into a zombie. So I had to kill her." Jojo paused, then continued, "I just want those still alive to keep on living." But Huang Dao angrily retorted, "If it was your loved one I killed, would you still speak so calmly?" These words immediately reminded Jojo of the sight of his family being slaughtered in front of him in his past life. It was the greatest scar in Jojo's heart. At this moment, someone once again threatened to hurt his family. The fury in Jojo's heart could no longer be controlled. Jojo then flashed to Huang Dao's side, grabbing his neck, lifting him up, and glaring at him murderously. Slowly speaking, "Was I too gentle to respond to your doubts by entering here? Saving your lives again and again? This is how you repay me. If anyone dares to touch my family, I'll kill them." Saying that, he stabbed toward him with his knife. Sha Bingbing and the others saw Jojo really intending to kill Huang Dao, and hurriedly tried to stop Jojo. Meanwhile, Lin Jia was still watching the show. He mocked Jojo and said, "As expected, Jojo, you're a bloodthirsty killer." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Jia suddenly noticed someone rushing toward them from behind. Just as he was about to ask who it was, He saw the person rush to Jojo's side, blocking the knife aimed at Huang Dao with one hand, and grabbing Jojo's hand that was choking Huang Dao with the other. He spoke up. "Calm down. Ah, Joe." The newcomer was none other than Jojo's big brother. Seeing Jojo's expressionless face, still lifting Huang Dao up, he realized Jojo had lost consciousness. Without hesitation, he slammed his forehead hard into Jojo's. Jojo was knocked to the ground, finally releasing Huang Dao. Jojo, regaining consciousness, slowly opened his eyes, looking confusedly at the sudden appearance of his big brother. Seeing Jojo awake, his big brother finally let out a sigh of relief and said, "You brat. You're finally awake." Then he helped Jojo up from the ground. Jojo asked in confusion, "Big brother, why are you here?" His big brother replied, "Of course, because I was worried about you. You've been gone for so long." Without a word. Meanwhile, Huang Dao, lying on the ground nearby, covered his face and cried bitterly, murmuring, "Wife, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I failed to protect you." Hearing his cries, Jojo's big brother shouted angrily at him, "Get up, Huang Dao. You know full well your wife was beyond saving. What Jojo did was right. He truly saved your life." Seeing Huang Dao still grieving, Jojo's big brother continued, "I understand how you feel right now. But if you need to resent someone, then resent me, his big brother. But we must look forward. You are our village official. Many people here still need you." Slowly calming down, Huang Dao spoke to Jojo's big brother. "You're right. Save people. I can still save others." Seeing Huang Dao calm down, Jojo slightly smiled, feeling emotional that his big brother was still the same. Always so perceptive, able to take care of everyone's feelings. Back when they were kids. Even though Jojo had worse popularity than his brother, no matter what happened, his big brother would always stay by his side and protect him. Thinking of this, Jojo punched his big brother lightly on the arm. His big brother asked in confusion, "What is it?" Jojo waved his hand while walking away. "Nothing." In his heart, Jojo silently said, "This time, it's my turn to protect you." At that moment, from the cave earlier, suddenly came cries for help. Sha Bingbing immediately said, "That's the voice of village head Ji." As she spoke, she headed toward the cave entrance. But Jojo stopped her, looking seriously at the cave entrance and said, "Don't act rashly." Sha Bingbing looked at Jojo in confusion and said, "But the village chief." Jojo did not respond, still staring at the cave, feeling there was something very wrong. Strange groaning sounds came from inside the cave again. One of Lin Jia's men looked at Lin Jia in fear and asked, "Mr. Lin, could there really be zombies?" That woman earlier seemed. Before he could finish, Lin Jia roared angrily, "Shut up! One more word and you're out of here." Another of Lin Jia's men mocked the man who just spoke. "Such a coward. Mr. Lin, watch me." After speaking, he walked into the cave with a flashlight, shouting as he went, "Who's playing tricks? Show yourself." But suddenly his voice cut off. The flashlight in his hand fell to the ground. Everyone outside the cave watched in horror. When they looked toward the cave, they saw the man's lower body remaining, while his upper body was held by a zombie. Behind the zombie were countless blood-red eyes, making everyone's hair stand on end. The zombie threw the upper body in front of Lin Jia. Lin Jia stared in terror at the half-torso. Trembling, he said, "What the hell?" Before he finished speaking, all the zombies in the cave charged at Jojo and the others. Seeing the swarm of zombies, Jojo cursed, "Damn it!" This number was way more than expected. Even if he escaped, Sha Bingbing and Big Brother might not make it. Seeing the zombies rushing at them, He shouted to Big Brother and Sha Bingbing. Stay close to me. Suddenly, Big Brother pulled Jojo behind him, kicking a zombie flying away. Big Brother looked back at Jojo and smiled. When did you start hogging all the glory? The kicked zombie slowly stood back up. Big Brother's face turned grim. I hit it, but it can still stand? These things. Do they have any weak points? Jojo answered. Their weakness is the brain and they're afraid of strong light. Looks like you haven't lost your skills, Big Brother. Big Brother replied. Of course. Beating you up would be easy. Jojo said. Remember the old tactics? Big Brother replied. Of course. I go first. You finish them off. Just as he finished speaking, the zombies charged at them. Big Brother charged first, disrupting the zombies' formation, and Jojo followed, dealing fatal blows. Seeing more and more zombies ahead, Jojo shouted to Sha Bingbing and the others. Everyone stick together. Use your flashlights on their eyes. Attack their heads. And don't get bitten. Nearby, Huang Dao and Uncle Niu. After taking down one zombie together, Huang Dao, dripping with sweat, said, It takes both of us just to handle one zombie. And those Joe brothers can fight a whole group? Uncle Niu, panting heavily, replied. They were picked up young by Master Zhang of the National Martial Arts Hall. Trained as disciples. Even professional fighters might not beat them. Huang Dao said gloomily. I see. I actually thought about teaching Jojo a lesson before. How laughable. At that moment, Jojo finished off the last zombie. Big Brother looked around and then turned to Jojo, asking, When did you become so strong, kid? Jojo grinned and said, Call me Big Brother, and I might teach you. Then he turned back to Sha Bingbing and said, It's over. It's over. Don't be afraid. Sha Bingbing was startled by Jojo suddenly turning back. She quickly replied nervously, Okay. Big Brother Jojo looked at him disdainfully and said, You can't even comfort someone properly? Sha Bingbing took a deep breath and said gratefully, Thank you both. Big Brother Jojo pointed at Jojo and said, Hey! Don't thank me. It's this kid who has been protecting you. Jojo just waved his hand and said, I'll go check on the others. Meanwhile, one of Lin Jia's men had been bitten by a zombie on the arm. He shouted in panic, Boss Lin, I think I got bitten. What do I do? Another subordinate also said, Boss, I think I was too. Are we going to turn into those things? As soon as he finished speaking, he coughed up a mouthful of blood, crying out loudly, Help! Help me! Boss, where are you? Hiding behind a large tree, Lin Jia ignored the cries of his men, stiffly leaning against the tree, cold sweat dripping from his face. Suddenly, he heard fearful cries from his men behind him, shouting, Jojo, what are you doing? Wait! Don't kill me! Lin Jia was terrified, his whole body trembling uncontrollably, cold sweat pouring down. He tried his best to control himself, afraid even a sound would get him caught. After a while, the cries behind him stopped. Then he heard footsteps, slowly approaching. His heart leapt into his throat. Eventually, the footsteps stopped behind him. Jojo leaned out and looked at him, saying, Hey, you're not infected? Consider yourself lucky. Jojo crouched down, whispering in Lin Jia's ear, Just keep hiding here, and don't make a sound. After that, Jojo walked away, shouting as he went, Lin Jia! Boss Lin! Where are you? Once Jojo was far away, Lin Jia clutched his mouth, looking down in terror, cursing Jojo inwardly. At the cave entrance, Sha Bingbing and the others watched nervously. Sha Bingbing said, But I did hear the village chief's voice just now. Jojo, returning from a distance, asked, What happened? Suddenly, the same cry for help echoed again from inside the cave. Sha Bingbing exclaimed. There it is again. That is definitely the village chief's voice. Jojo looked seriously at the cave and said to Big Brother and Sha Bingbing, you two head back first. I'll go take a look. At that moment, Big Brother said, I'll go with you. At least I can cover you. Jojo thought about it and agreed since Big Brother's skills were just as good as his own. Then he said to Sha Bingbing and the others, you all head back first. Sha Bingbing wanted to go with them. But just as she was about to speak, Jojo said, saving someone from a pile of corpses is dangerous. You guys can't help. You just get in the way. Go do what you should do. We'll check on the village chief. Uncle Niu said to Sha Bingbing and Huang Dao. Little Huang, little Sha. Let's head back first. The village needs us too. Let's head back first. The village needs us too. Sha Bingbing, who still wanted to follow, thought about her duty as a village official, and that she needed to return to help comfort the villagers. So she turned around and left with the others. Jojo watched Sha Bingbing and the others leaving, feeling heavy-hearted inside. We can't let more victims appear. Hopefully, after resolving the corpse nest source, that will erupt in a few days, the survivors in the village can be left to Sha Bingbing and the others to handle. The Jojo brothers carried flashlights and walked deeper into the cave. His big brother asked Jojo, Hey, Joe, is there still hope for the village book? Those zombies earlier all came from inside here. Jojo replied, Not necessarily. His big brother exclaimed in shock. Huh? Really? Jojo continued. If the village book has been bitten, then there's no way to save him. But the cries for help earlier didn't sound like something someone bitten could still make. Hearing this, his big brother sighed and said, I hope so. He then added, Back then Sha Bingbing was just a college student who came here to serve as a village official. It was thanks to the village book's help that she was able to adapt to life here. No wonder she cares so much about the village book's safety. Suddenly, Jojo stopped and said to his big brother, Stop. Then he stared intently ahead. Jojo's big brother followed his gaze and looked forward, exclaiming in shock, What the heck? What is that? Jojo looked at the dried corpse in front of him and muttered, Something's not right. This corpse is different from the previous zombies. It's already become a dried corpse. Hearing this, his big brother asked confusedly, A dried corpse? How could there be a dried corpse here? He shone his flashlight ahead and saw a figure standing with its back toward them. He asked, Is that person the village book? Under the light, the figure kept growling lowly with its back to them. Help me. Help me. Jojo's big brother quickly asked, Village book, are you okay? We're here to save you. The figure suddenly turned around and looked at Jojo's big brother, saying, Help me. I'm so hungry. It was a monster with tentacles growing from its chest and no lower jaw. Before Jojo's big brother could see the monster clearly, the monster stretched out its tentacles and lunged at him. Quick thinking, Jojo immediately pulled his brother aside. The tentacle missed, but shattered the rocks on the ground with ease. Jojo's pupils contracted as he watched this scene, thinking to himself, It's too fast. There's no way to escape. Realizing this, Jojo grabbed his long knife without hesitation and charged at the monster head-on. The monster attacked Jojo with its tentacles while growling, So hungry. Save me. Jojo agilely dodged the tentacles and quickly closed in on the monster. Then he swung his knife forcefully at the monster's face. However, it didn't harm the monster at all. Jojo was shocked and thought, This skin's toughness. It's actually a mutated zombie. The mutant took advantage of Jojo's daze and whipped Jojo away with its tentacle. Jojo, falling backward, smashed hard onto the ground. The mutant roared angrily and continued charging at the fallen JoJo. Suddenly, a strong beam of light hit the mutant's face. The mutant immediately shielded itself with both hands and dodged aside. JoJo's big brother held the flashlight and shouted loudly at JoJo. The strong light works on it. JoJo, struggling to stand up, immediately shouted back, "Run!" Then the JoJo brothers quickly ran toward the cave exit. After rushing out of the cave, JoJo collapsed weakly onto the ground, panting heavily. Beside him, his big brother asked, "What exactly was that thing? Was it a zombie too?" JoJo replied, "It's a zombie. A mutated variant type." Seeing his brother's puzzled face, JoJo continued, "Such mutations usually occur when a human is infected by an animal. In rare cases, the DNA of both combines and mutates. Mutants are far stronger than normal zombies, and some even possess special abilities. In this abandoned mine, there are probably many mutated bats. Judging by the village book's form, it should be a second-level bat mutant. Such zombies are extremely hard to deal with in the dark, but are very afraid of light. Fortunately, it's bright outside, so that monster doesn't dare to come out." JoJo's big brother squinted at JoJo and asked, "Josie, since when did a slacker like you become a zombie expert?" JoJo was momentarily speechless, then turned and said as he walked, "Isn't that how it's written in novels? I think it's pretty much the same. Come on. We'll bring full gear tomorrow and come back to kill that monster." Suddenly, behind them in the cave, a swarm of bats flew out. The mutant's tentacle also stretched out of the cave and stabbed firmly into the ground. Then the mutant launched itself like a bowstring. JoJo's big brother, unable to dodge in time, was violently knocked flying. JoJo immediately reacted, grabbing the mutant's tentacle tightly. The mutant's giant mouth was being held off by JoJo's big brother using his arm. Meanwhile, JoJo was tightly pulling the mutant's tentacle. Inside, JoJo thought, "Crap. This thing's strength is overwhelming. If only we had strong light." Suddenly, a roaring sound came from behind JoJo. A speeding car charged straight at the mutant. Inside the car, Sha Bingbing shouted anxiously, "Get out of the way!" JoJo looked carefully and realized the driver was Sha Bingbing, who had already left. The mutant, unable to react in time, was heavily rammed and knocked flying. After the car stopped, Sha Bingbing slumped over the steering wheel. But shortly after, the mutant's head fell heavily onto the car hood. JoJo immediately rushed over and stabbed the mutant's head fiercely with his knife. Only then did the mutant finally die. Sha Bingbing clutched her head and got out of the car. "JoJo, Uncle Joe, are you all right? What's with that monster?" As she spoke, she looked toward the monster. Suddenly, she was shocked. This is Uncle Kunji." JoJo looked at Sha Bingbing and said, "Sorry, but Uncle Kunji had already sacrificed himself. This is just a demon that occupied Uncle Kunji's body." Leaning against a tree, Jo Ming let out a deep breath and said, "Luckily, Sha turned the car around and saved us. Otherwise, the two of us would have been done for. And you brat, you didn't even apologize. What are you gonna do in the future?" JoJo looked at his weakened big brother in panic. "Brother, you." On the side, Sha Bingbing was also covering her mouth in shock, tears welling up in her eyes. Jo Ming forced a light-hearted smile and said, "Hey, a moment of carelessness, I still got caught." Veins bulging, Jo Ming struggled to say to JoJo, "Sorry, Juji, the family's in your hands now." Then he looked at the knife beside him and continued, "You know what to do next." Looking at the infected Uncle Joe, JoJo was overwhelmed with guilt. He had thought that with this second chance at life, he could protect his family. But why had it come to this again? Suddenly, JoJo turned to the mutated corpse He quickly walked over, pulled out the long knife embedded in its skull, and began hacking at the mutant's head. Blood splattered everywhere. Uncle Joe, watching Joe go berserk, thought he was grieving too much, and shouted loudly, "Juji! What are you doing? Stop it now!" Sha Bingbing also tried to stop Joe, but Joe still didn't stop. Because Joe had just realized that mutated zombies absorb viruses from lesser zombies to condense a zombie core in their brains. Their purpose was to create a zombie nucleus. Moments later, Joe indeed found the zombie nucleus in the mutant's brain. He immediately said to Uncle Joe, "Brother, you haven't shown symptoms yet. There's still hope." As he spoke, Joe handed over the zombie core to Uncle Joe. Hesitating, he continued, "This is a virus mass similar to what's in your body. A zombie core. If you eat it now, you might evolve into an awakened and become immune to the zombie virus. But there's a bigger chance you'll turn into a monster like that." Uncle Joe only glanced at it and swallowed it without hesitation. Although Joe was hesitant, he knew this was the only way to save his brother. After swallowing the zombie core, Uncle Joe said lightly to Joe, "You should have said you had this earlier. Made me so emotional for nothing. How long until it works?" Joe replied solemnly, "You'll know within 2 days." After hearing this, Uncle Joe walked into the cave. While walking, he said, "If I don't come out in 2 days, seal the cave entrance. But if I evolve into an awakened, don't get jealous." Looking at his optimistic big brother, Joe also relaxed a bit. He believed his brother would survive this ordeal. Smiling, he said, "We'll be waiting for you." Meanwhile, Ling Jia, who had been hiding behind the tree, overheard their conversation. With a sinister expression, he said, "So that's how it is. Let me help you, then." The next morning, Zhou Ying, wearing homemade armor, rushed into Joe's room shouting, "Brother, get up." Joe turned and looked at Zhou Ying and said helplessly, "What are you doing? Dressed like some kind of mutant." Zhou Ying responded, "Didn't you say the whole family needed better defenses? That's why I put on this armor." Then he proudly continued, "How about it? Cool, right?" While Zhou Ying was waiting for Joe's praise, Joe lightly pushed Zhou Ying's armor with his finger. Zhou Ying rolled away like a barrel, rolling straight out. Joe muttered, "You call this armor? If zombies show up, are you planning to roll away?" Joe walked out of the room and looked up to see his dad building a courtyard wall. At the same time, Dad noticed Joe. He asked, "Little Joe, you're awake?" Then he jumped down from the wall, grabbed a barrel of gunpowder nearby, and excitedly said to Joe, "Where did you get these goodies? Leave a few boxes for your old man to play with." Joe said helplessly, "Dad, this is gunpowder, not a toy." Dad carried the gunpowder barrel and ran off. While running, he said, "Don't be so stingy. Just 1 box." Joe watched his playful father and sighed, "Take it easy, will you?" Suddenly there was a loud clang from the side. Joe turned to look and found his mother with a frying pan on her head, holding a Vajra fork in her hand, stepping on the rolling little sister, practicing thrusting techniques. Seeing this scene, Joe thought inwardly, like mother, like daughter. Then he asked his mom, "Mom, is there any breakfast left?" Mom casually replied, "No time to cook. Figure it out yourselves." Then she continued practicing her thrusts. Joe watched his mom and sighed inwardly, "Guess I'll go bum a meal off Uncle Niu." Sha Bingbing, who had been standing outside Joe's house for a long time, was just about to press the doorbell when Joe opened the door from inside. At that moment, Joe also saw Sha Bingbing and asked, "What are you doing here?" Sha Bingbing lowered her head, Hesitating to speak, Jojo asked again. Is something wrong? Sha Bingbing, gathering her resolve, loudly said to Jojo. I need your help. Jojo asked curiously. Help? Hearing the noise at the door, Jo Mom also came out. When she saw it was Sha Bingbing, she said, Oh, it's Bingbing. Come in. Come on in. Sha Bingbing saw Jo Mom and responded, Thank you, Auntie. But I won't bother you. I just came to ask Jojo for help. Sha Bingbing continued explaining to Jojo. The village committee has started organizing villagers to strengthen defenses. Things are progressing fairly smoothly. However, after I contacted the county police last night, I haven't received any further updates. And even the signal was lost this morning. Hearing this, Jojo checked his phone, realizing there really was no signal. Weird, that didn't happen in my previous life. Sha Bingbing continued. This isn't normal. I'm worried that the communication blackout will make us miss the chance for rescue. So Jojo, I want to ask you to go to the county with me. See if we can get in touch with the outside world. After hearing Sha Bingbing's words, Jojo fell into thoughtful hesitation. Sha Bingbing noticed Jojo's hesitation. She bowed deeply to him and said, I'm really sorry. After what happened to Uncle Joe yesterday, I'm still asking you to take a risk today. But, Jojo, you are the most skilled person I know, and the one who understands those monsters the best. I have to go to the county to find out the situation. It's my duty. Hearing Sha Bingbing's words, Jo Mom spoke up. She said, All right, Bingbing. No need to say more. If it weren't for you yesterday, my foolish son wouldn't have made it back. Sha Bingbing looked at Jo Mom, who spoke up. Jo Mom continued. What happened to Uncle has nothing to do with you. That was his own decision. Bingbing, wait a moment. Then she turned to Jojo and said, Little Joe, come with me. Jojo followed his mom into the house. Inside the room, Jo Mom had her back to him, searching for something on the shelves. She spoke slowly. Little Joe, you don't need to worry about us. Parents are meant to shield their children, not to become their burdens. Look at your expression. You're a grown man now, and you still make Xiaoying worry. As she spoke, Jo Mom took down an old long sword from the shelf. She looked at Jojo and continued. So, trust us more. Just like we trust you. Believing Uncle will come back safely. Only then did Jojo finally let go of his worries. Looking at his mom, he replied, I understand. Jo Mom handed him the sword and said, Take it. This sword is still in good condition. Jo Mom watched Jojo and Sha Bingbing leave, waving and shouting loudly. Go! Do what you need to do. Come back safe and sound. You hear me? Sha Bingbing turned back and replied. Thank you, Auntie. We'll be back soon. Jojo urged his mom to go back inside, telling her to just be careful herself. Jo Mom stood at the gate, watching Jojo and Sha Bingbing leave. She smiled and said, Those two look quite good together. Inside the cave, Uncle Joe, after eating the zombie golden core, was still waiting for changes in his body. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching. Thinking it was Jojo, he was about to call out to tell him not to come yet. Suddenly he felt liquid flowing under his feet. Uncle Joe touched it with his hand, brought it to his nose to smell, and was shocked to find it was gasoline. Before he could react, the gasoline ignited. A huge explosion occurred. Uncle Joe was caught in the blast. Meanwhile, Jojo and Sha Bingbing were heading to the county for help. Inside the car, Sha Bingbing was humming a tune while looking out the window, though it was totally off-key. Jojo looked at Sha Bingbing helplessly, thinking inwardly, so tone-deaf people really do exist. Sha Bingbing looked apologetically at Jojo and said, Sorry. I hum when I get nervous. I know I sing terribly. Jojo thought to himself emotionally. Clearly scared to death. But still trying to charge ahead bravely. Still. This really is the Sha Bingbing I know. There have been many unexpected events this lifetime. I can't fully rely on experiences from my past life. So I still have to depend on her zombie sensing ability. I must not let anything happen to Sha Bingbing. Thinking of this, Jojo called out softly. Sha Bingbing. Sha Bingbing looked at Jojo, confused. Jojo continued. Come live at my house from now on. Sha Bingbing heard that and asked in confusion. Huh? Her cheeks turned slightly red as she turned away. And she muttered softly. Why would I stay at your place? Jojo didn't notice her blushing cheeks. Thinking. If I said she might awaken powers like in the previous life. She wouldn't believe it. Forget it. I'll just say it straight. Then he spoke out. Because I need you. I can't afford for anything to happen to you. Sha Bingbing, blushing, looked at Jojo, confused. Just as she was about to ask something, Jojo suddenly noticed the road ahead was completely blocked by a mudslide. The two got out of the car to check. Seeing the road completely blocked, Sha Bingbing said in frustration. At this rate, we can't get to the county. Jojo didn't respond. He fell into deep thought. In the past life, this road was clear. It seems not just the timeline has changed. If the road to the county is blocked, future supply runs will be difficult. For now, there's no way to reach the county. Jojo said helplessly. Let's go. Let's return to the village first. And figure things out later. Sha Bingbing also said. That's our only option. On the way back, Jojo thought about the supplies at home that could last a while. But with no signal and blocked roads, he had a bad feeling. The car suddenly ran over spike strips, causing it to swerve uncontrollably. Jojo slammed the brakes, managing to stop just before falling off a bridge. Jojo and Sha Bingbing got out of the car, seeing spike strips on the road. Sha Bingbing shouted in shock. That's... Jojo said grimly. Stay back. Those are spike strips. This was intentional. As soon as he said that, a voice rang out. Ha! You're something else, huh? Jojo. Already getting cozy with the pretty village chief? So enviable. Lin Jia, squatting on a railing, mocked Jojo while holding a pistol. Jojo didn't look at Lin Jia. He just asked. What do you want? Lin Jia said. What do I want? You killed so many of my brothers last night. As their boss, I have to avenge them, he said as he slowly walked toward Jojo. Jojo sneered. Avenge your brothers? Then you should be hunting zombies. But, with the way you cowered last night, you really think you can fight me? Hearing Jojo mock him, Lin Jia got furious and shouted angrily. Damn you, Jojo! I'll kill you right now. Jojo held the sword at his waist and chuckled lightly. Let's see. The tension grew to its peak. Lin Jia squinted at Jojo, slowly pulling the trigger. But he didn't aim at Jojo. He fired at Sha Bingbing behind Jojo. Jojo watched in shock as Sha Bingbing was shot and collapsed. Then, in fury, Jojo shouted at Lin Jia. Lin Jia! You scumbag! Lin Jia laughed wildly at the sky. Hurts, doesn't it? That's good. Then he stared at Jojo with malice and continued. Dealing with trash like you. You start by hurting those close to you. Oh, right. One more thing I forgot to tell you. Last night, I saw your brother got infected. I knew you wouldn't have the heart to kill him. So I helped you out. I blew up the mine. Hearing Lin Jia's words, Jojo stood frozen in shock. Then, his eyes turned blood red as he glared at Lin Jia. Drawing the long sword at his waist, he charged at Lin Jia in rage. Lin Jia, seeing Jojo charging over, mocked him and said, Idiot! I was waiting for you to rush in. He raised his pistol to shoot at Jojo. But suddenly from the woods next to Lin Jia, a dark shadow darted out and directly bit off Lin Jia's arm. Lin Jia fell to the ground screaming like a slaughtered pig. He looked at the sudden creature in terror. Jojo also stopped in shock. Staring at the creature, he exclaimed, "That's a rank 2 zombie lieutenant." Meanwhile, back at home, Zhou Ying stood casually on the roof looking into the distance. He said, "Second brother and sister Bingbing are so slow. Why aren't they back yet?" Suddenly, a rapid knocking came from below. Someone outside shouted loudly, "Is Jojo there? Jojo!" Zhou Ying looked down and said in confusion, "Brother Huang? Uncle Niu? My second brother went out. What's going on?" From below, Huang Dao shouted, "Look at the mountain over there." Zhou Ying pulled out his phone and pointed it at the distance. Suddenly, Zhou Ying's pupils dilated. On the phone screen, the mountain was crawling with zombies, moving down toward the village. Meanwhile, Lin Jia, whose arm had been bitten off by the zombie lieutenant, was lying on the ground barely breathing. He cursed bitterly. "Damn it! Am I really going to die here?" The zombie lieutenant slowly turned toward Jojo. Jojo's heart sank. He thought, "Not good." The zombie lieutenant roared and pounced at Jojo. Jojo quickly dodged to the side, slashing across the zombie lieutenant's chest with his sword. Blood gushed out instantly. Seeing the wounded zombie lieutenant, Jojo thought to himself, "Luckily, it's still dusk. The zombie lieutenant isn't at full strength yet. If it were nighttime, both Sha Bingbing and I would be dead. We must kill him before night falls." Suddenly, roars echoed from the forest. Jojo froze in confusion. More zombies? No. It's a zombie nest. Jojo stared in shock at the approaching nest. Why is the zombie nest still coming? Didn't the village book, the nest source, die? Could the real source not be the village book? But bats? Just as Jojo figured it out, the zombie lieutenant, eyes blazing, lunged at him. It struck hard toward Jojo. In a split second, Jojo used his agility to narrowly dodge. He was shocked that the heavily wounded zombie lieutenant was still so fast. Then Jojo noticed the wound he inflicted earlier was healing rapidly. Before Jojo could steady himself, the zombie lieutenant lunged at him with its gaping maw. Meanwhile, the cave where Zhou Shu was located had its entrance sealed by rubble from the earlier explosion. At this moment, rumbling sounds echoed from within the cave. As the rumbling grew louder, the rubble at the entrance was blasted away completely. Moments later, Zhou Shu stood at the entrance with an evil grin, his entire body emitting a strange red glow. Meanwhile, Sha Bingbing looked on in despair at Jojo, who had been bitten by the zombie wolf. She mumbled through tears, "No. Jojo." Suddenly, Jojo, bitten by the zombie wolf, also began emitting a strange red glow all over his body. Feeling the surging strength within him, Jojo swung his fist and struck the zombie wolf fiercely. Caught off guard, the zombie wolf took the full force of the blow and let out a wail as it stumbled backward, blood gushing from its mouth. Taking advantage of the opening, Jojo picked up his long knife and attacked again. The severely wounded zombie wolf could no longer dodge Jojo's strikes and was slashed in half at the waist. Sha Bingbing watched the scene before her in shock, calling out Jojo's name softly. Jojo smiled at Sha Bingbing and replied, I'm here." The weakened Sha Bingbing said, "Ha! I'm just glad you're okay. Even though you're scarily strong. I'm not surprised at all." In her heart, Sha Bingbing thought, "Is it because deep down I believe Jojo can solve everything?" Jojo looked at his palm, feeling the power coursing through him. He was confused as to why his strength had surged so suddenly. Could this be an ability awakening? But in his previous life, there had never been an example of awakening without relying on Golden River powers. Coming back to his senses, Jojo looked toward the lion's nest and said slowly, "This isn't the time for chit-chat. We need to run. This place is already surrounded by zombies. Your leg is injured. I'll carry you. Hold on tight later. Along the way, it might get bumpy." Sha Bingbing struggled to stand up, a look of pain on her face, and whispered, "Okay." At that moment, zombies roared as they closed in on Jojo and Sha Bingbing. Jojo carried Sha Bingbing and swiftly ran toward home. Soon, they spotted a village in the distance. But the zombies behind them were catching up fast. Seeing the zombies closing in, Jojo muttered, "There are still too many. Even if I could kill them all, I can't guarantee Sha Bingbing won't get hurt." Just as he was about to continue fleeing, a vehicle suddenly appeared from afar, rushing toward them. The car's rear was blasting out huge fireballs. As it neared Jojo, the driver executed a smooth drift to turn around, firing a huge fireball from the rear. That blasted away all the zombies ahead. After the car stopped, they saw Joe Dad at the wheel, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. He shouted loudly at Jojo, "Juji! Dad's here." From the backseat, Zhou Yingwei added, "And me too." Facing the relentless zombies, Joe Dad shouted, "Gunner, listen up. 3 Zhou family fire dragon bombs." In the backseat, Zhou Ying responded loudly, throwing 3 homemade fire dragon bombs at the pursuing zombies. Outside the window, zombies engulfed in flames still kept chasing. Joe Dad let out a cold snort, tossed another firecracker out, then flicked his cigarette onto it. The firecracker was instantly ignited, causing a massive explosion. Zhou Ying watched the powerful blast in awe. Not only was he not afraid, he even shouted excitedly, "This is awesome." Jojo suddenly remembered that there was a medical kit under the seat. He lowered his head to search for it. As soon as Jojo found what he needed, Zhou Ying snatched it from him. She said, "A girl's leg isn't something you can just touch." Then, grinning mischievously, she added, "Unless there's some special relationship between you two that I don't know about." Sha Bingbing didn't say anything, only giving an awkward smile. Jojo looked at Zhou Ying speechlessly, and muttered, "You little liar." Then he asked Joe Dad, "Dad, how's everything at home?" Joe Dad replied, "Don't worry. The zombies haven't entered the village yet." Jojo nodded and glanced at the explosives beside him, then said, "By the way, Dad, you made all these explosives? And you're still smoking next to them?" Joe Dad answered proudly, "Of course. I was obsessed with explosives when I was young. I studied them every day. Later, I worked in the mines as the team's blasting expert. Unfortunately, after the mine was depleted, I couldn't play with explosives anymore. Even when I tried dismantling firecrackers, your mom would scold me." He sighed. Sigh. Jojo suddenly thought of something and asked, "So, the kitchen explosion at home last year, was that you?" Joe Dad's body immediately stiffened. He stammered, "Ah, of course not. How could it be?" Jojo added from the side, "Dad, you're shaking all over." Joe Dad whispered, "Don't tell your mom." Soon, Jojo and the others arrived at their house. Just as they got out of the car, they heard shouting from the courtyard. Joe Dad panicked and rushed toward the gate, shouting, "Oh no! The gate's locked. We can't get in." Behind him, Jojo kneeled and smashed the gate open. Inside, they saw Joe Mom holding a zombie by the neck, saying calmly, "So it's you. Sister-in-law Zhang from the neighboring village. Long time no see." Outside, Joe Dad and Zhou Ying trembled and hid behind the door. At the sight of Joe Mom's ferocity, Jojo cautiously called out from the front, "Mom?" Inside, Joe Mom ignored Jojo and the others. Her face darkened. She raised her frying pan and spoke coldly to the zombie sister-in-law Zhang. You suddenly jumped out. And gave me a scare. Do you think turning into this will get you out of paying your debt? Last time at cards. You still owed me 500 yuan. When your son went to college. I gave you 600 yuan. When my eldest went to college. You didn't give a cent. And you even gossiped about our family. You deserve this. While scolding, Joe Mom continued to beat the zombie sister-in-law Zhang. Joe watched his fierce mother. And asked his dad with a trembling voice. When did Mom become this good at fighting? Joe Dad, lighting a cigarette, replied. She's always been tough. Back in the day, she was the top fighter across 10 villages. If it really came down to a fight, 3 to 5 men wouldn't even get close to her. But after meeting me, she mellowed out a lot. She even forced me to marry her. Just as he finished speaking, a frying pan flew through the air from the courtyard, hitting Joe Dad squarely as he reminisced. Then came Joe Mom's voice. Shameless. It was you who clung to me back then. She then turned to Joe and said, And you, Joe, why did you break the gate? Just wait and see how I deal with you later. As Joe was nervously planning his escape, Sha Bingbing spoke up. Auntie Xie, please don't blame Joe. He was just worried about you. Hearing Sha Bingbing's words, Joe Mom immediately stopped what she was doing, looked at Sha Bingbing and said softly, Oh dear. Bingbing's here too. I was just joking around earlier. Don't take it seriously. Auntie is very easygoing. On the side, Joe helplessly watched his unpredictable mother. At that moment, on the side of the courtyard wall, a zombie appeared, roaring loudly. But it was immediately knocked down. Huang Dao, standing on the wall, shouted into the courtyard. Stop chatting. There are more zombies coming. Many have already entered the village. And a whole group is approaching from the west. Hearing this, Joe immediately activated his powers and charged toward the zombie horde. Watching his family join the fight, Joe thought to himself, now that the whole family is ready for battle, we won't give the zombies any openings. And I'm no longer fighting alone. I have my family's support. This zombie tide. We will definitely survive it. Suddenly, the zombies began to retreat. Zhou Ying watched them retreat and exclaimed, Look! The zombies are scared. But Joe frowned and said, No. Zombies don't feel fear. No sooner had he spoken than they saw the retreating zombies coming back with ladders and tools. Joe Dad stared at the zombies with tools in shock. No way. Zombies using tools? Are they preparing for a siege? Joe, preparing for more battle, shouted loudly. These zombies are clearly being controlled. Then Joe noticed a figure on a distant rooftop. That figure was Lin Jia, who should have been long dead. Lin Jia was now eerily staring in their direction, watching the endless wave of zombies. Joe Dad frowned and cursed. Damn it! Why are they all coming to our house? He then shouted to Zhou Ying at the back. Girl! The explosives! Zhou Ying responded anxiously. We're out. Meanwhile, Huang Dao saw zombies climbing up from the side and shouted at Joe. Joe! Several are sneaking up from the side. Joe immediately looked to the side and muttered, Feint and flank. These zombies are even using tactics. Looking below at Sha Bingbing, Joe Dad, and Joe Mom being surrounded by zombies, struggling to fend them off. Joe's gaze sharpened. He shouted to Joe Dad and Joe Mom. Dad! Mom! Stay and defend the courtyard. I'll take care of the rest. With that, he activated his powers and jumped off the wall. Joe Dad, watching Joe leap down, shouted his name anxiously. He then saw the surrounding zombies swarm over Joe. At that moment, Joe, feeling his power surge, gathered his energy onto his long blade and swung it outward with force. He muttered softly, Blood Chi Shield. Strength to shatter 10,000 armies. Blood Asura ability. Immediately, the zombies around JoJo were completely shredded by his ability. Looking at the power he had unleashed, JoJo recalled seeing it once in his previous life. The commander of the Dawn Army, one of the strongest ability users, seemed to have used this same ability. However, his own Blood Asura was much weaker. But JoJo understood that as long as he had the power to protect his family, nothing else mattered. Looking at the figure on the distant rooftop, JoJo knew the zombies were not the real threat. The real threat was the one controlling them. Capture the ringleader first. Seeing the zombies closing in again, he sneered. Did you think ordinary zombies could hold me off? Just as he finished speaking, a huge roar erupted behind him. JoJo froze, a chill running down his spine. Meanwhile, Sha Bingbing struggled to knock down an attacking zombie. Seeing this, Jo Mom anxiously asked, "Are you all right, Sha? Were you hurt?" Panting, Sha Bingbing replied, "Thank you, Auntie. I'm fine. What about JoJo? I saw him jump down earlier." Ahead, Zhou Ying shouted loudly, I know. I saw second brother knock down all those zombies like Superman. Don't worry. He's definitely fine." Just then, a loud crashing sound came from behind Zhou Ying. She slowly turned her head to look. There lay JoJo among the debris. Zhou Ying shouted in shock. "Second brother!" JoJo anxiously shouted at them. "Don't come here. Run!" It was a mutated giant bear that had knocked JoJo flying. The giant bear now glared fiercely at JoJo, ignoring the pain in his body. JoJo struggled to his feet. He knew he was the only one who could stand up now. He swore he would never let harm come to his family again. He fully unleashed the power within him, ready to fight to the death to protect his family. Joe Dad and the others called out to JoJo anxiously, their hearts full of worry. At that moment, the giant bear swung its massive paw viciously toward JoJo. JoJo quickly dodged to the side. But after a loud crash, the giant bear's paw didn't land. Instead, a voice rang out. "Hey! I was wondering how you suddenly got stronger. So you can also use this kind of power." As soon as the voice finished, they saw JoJo's big brother, Zhou Shu, blocking the giant bear's paw with one hand. Zhou Shu continued. "Sorry, Juji. I'm late." Looking at Zhou Shu who had suddenly appeared, JoJo shouted joyfully, "Big brother!" Zhou Shu slowly turned to the giant bear and said, "I spent some time in the back hills, getting used to this power. Juji, watch carefully. This is how you use this power." As he spoke, he hurled the giant bear far away. The bear crashed into the distance like a runaway train. Watching the giant bear tumble away, Zhou Shu said, "It's not dead yet. This giant hamster's skin is pretty thick." Then he turned to JoJo and said, "Leave this to me. You go do what you need to do." Looking at his brother whose strength had skyrocketed, JoJo grinned wickedly. JoJo looked at his mighty big brother and smirked. "All right." JoJo stared at Ling Jia standing right before him. He recalled how, in his previous life, his family died in front of him, and how he woke up countless nights from nightmares, deeply hating this hellish world, and his own helplessness. In this life, now that he had power, he would eliminate all threats. He slowly spoke. "Ling Jia, you're actually still alive?" Across from JoJo, Ling Jia, whose arm had been bitten off by the zombie wolf, now had a monstrous wolf-like claw. Looking like a monster, Ling Jia chuckled darkly. No. The old Ling Jia is dead. This is the new me. I have shed the inferior human body. Look. Half zombie, half human. Retaining independent consciousness, while commanding zombie hordes. This is the true king of the apocalypse. The zombies below gradually surrounded them, feeling the endless power in his body. Ling Jia continued. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to you, Jojo. You chopped that zombie wolf into minced meat, delivering the Jinhe crystal right to my mouth. I thought long and hard about how to repay you. In the end, I decided. Before Ling Jia could finish, Jojo swung his long blade and brutally cleaved Ling Jia's head in half. Looking at Ling Jia collapsing, Jojo said calmly, still so chatty. And you wanted to be king? After speaking, Jojo looked into the distance, thinking that this should ease the pressure on his big brother. Suddenly, a sinister laugh echoed behind him. Ling Jia's body slowly straightened up. The wound Jojo had slashed into his head was rapidly healing. The further mutated Ling Jia said to Jojo, as expected, Jojo, your blade can't kill me. Shocked, Jojo immediately raised his sword defensively, ready to attack Ling Jia again. Because Jojo knew that the mutated Ling Jia had inherited the zombie wolf's regenerative ability. Before Jojo could attack, in the next instant, Ling Jia appeared right beside him, speaking slowly. We are the same kind. Jojo. This is our era. Submit to me. The corpses will be our army. Flesh will be our harvest. And humans will be our livestock. So, how do you like my gift? In the distance, the zombie horde had already climbed the high walls. Inside the courtyard, Joe Ba and the others were struggling to hold them back. On one side, Uncle Niu shouted to Joe Ba, Old Joe, we can't hold much longer here. Joe Ba was also very anxious. But there was no better solution. He could only reply, hold on a little longer. Little Uncle and Juji will finish up soon. No sooner had he spoken than the giant bear crashed down heavily beside Joe Ba. A voice came from the side, Joe Shoes. Hey! This guy's really tough. Let's use him to plug the gap. Seeing Joe Shu had finished off the giant bear, Joe Ba anxiously asked, Little Uncle, how's Juji doing? Joe Shu, looking at the approaching zombie tide, knew he couldn't leave either. He could only reply to Joe Ba, Don't worry. Juji's potential exceeds mine. He'll handle it. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jojo was once again sent flying by Lin Jia, crashing hard onto the ground. Lin Jia squatted atop the rubble, mocking Jojo. Hey! You're such a disappointment. Jojo. Is this all you've got? But if you submit to me, I will pardon your offense of raising your blade against your king. As soon as he finished speaking, Jojo swung his sword at Lin Jia again, sending the unprepared Lin Jia flying with a fierce strike. Looking at Lin Jia, who was struck, Jojo whispered, Humans don't associate with beasts. Especially beasts like you. Who dare bear your fangs at my family? The only thing I need to do is kill you, Lin Jia. Lin Jia, lying on the ground, watched as the wound on his chest rapidly healed. He looked at Jojo and said, Really? What a pity. Jojo. Then I'll just have to sentence you to death. With that, he quickly charged at Jojo, swinging his claw to strike Jojo hard. Seeing Lin Jia's speed increase, Jojo could only defend passively with his sword. His heart shocked at how not only Lin Jia's speed, but also his strength had grown. As Lin Jia's attacks grew fiercer, a tearing sound was heard. A deep wound appeared on Jojo's arm. Jojo quickly adjusted his stance and retreated. Stopping himself, Jojo looked at the wound on his arm. Even the protective blood chi of Blood Asura couldn't block it. Across from him, Lin Jia stared at Jojo's blood on his claws, saying mockingly, I thought I'd get to see the color of your guts with that strike. Jojo felt his stamina draining quickly. The state of his Blood Asura was also about to collapse. He looked up at Lin Jia in the distance, preparing for a decisive final strike. But before Jojo could react, Lin Jia suddenly appeared in front of him. Smirking, Lin Jia said, Hey, just kidding. I don't even know how strong my full strike is. Jojo, stunned for a moment, had no time to defend. Lin Jia's claw ripped a deep wound across Jojo's chest. Blood splattered everywhere. But in the next instant, Jojo pulled out a packet of gunpowder and threw it at the gloating Lin Jia. The gunpowder exploded instantly. In the center of the explosion, Lin Jia's voice rang out. Burning screen? You think a little fire like this can kill me? As the flames of the explosion slowly died down, Lin Jia noticed that Jojo was nowhere to be seen. He muttered suspiciously. That Jojo actually ran away? Then he laughed wildly and continued. With such a strong smell of blood on you, you still think you can escape? Lin Jia stopped laughing and looked into the distance with a sinister gaze, saying slowly, just wait until I catch you. Meanwhile, Jojo, taking advantage of the opportunity, hid inside a convenience store. Panting heavily, looking at the wound on his arm, he noticed it had stopped bleeding. Jojo felt a flicker of hope. He hadn't expected the Blood Asura ability to also have healing properties. But feeling his rapidly dwindling stamina, he realized he only had one shot left. Following the trail of blood, Lin Jia approached the gas station, shouting loudly. Ha! A gas station? Looks like your choice of coffin isn't very tasteful, Jojo. Jojo! Lin Jia's claws dragged across the car, sparks flying. Lin Jia said slowly. Do you know why wolves hunt even when food is abundant? To feel the fear, the helplessness, and the despair of their prey. Even after calculating every move, after seeking life amidst death, he found the collapse of everything to be utterly useless. All of this was supreme pleasure. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Jia flipped the car in front of him. Lin Jia followed the blood trail on the ground. At the end of the trail, there was gasoline on the ground, a tripwire, and a Molotov cocktail connected to the tripwire above. Lin Jia mocked and said, You thought I'd follow the blood trail into the convenience store and step right into your trap? In fact, the place with the strongest smell of blood is... While speaking, Lin Jia forcefully struck upwards at the ceiling. The ceiling collapsed hard. But hidden inside was only a jacket soaked with Jojo's blood. Lin Jia stared at the falling jacket, shocked. What is this? A jacket? As the jacket fell down before Lin Jia, Jojo had already rushed right up to him, throwing powder straight at Lin Jia's face. Lin Jia covered his eyes, screaming in pain. Jojo! What did you do? Jojo calmly looked at the agonized Lin Jia and said slowly, It's just salt. Can't you smell it? Well, no wonder. Right now you can't smell anything. Nor can you see anything. The abilities of the zombie wolf have been strengthened in you. But you also inherited its weaknesses. A wolf's nose contains over 200 million cells, capable of distinguishing over 2 million different scents. And such rich olfactory nerves also mean they can't endure the irritation when salt touches their nasal cavity. For you, the pain is even more intense, right? You call yourself king, but you're really no different. Lin Jia. Listening to Jojo's taunts, Lin Jia shouted furiously, Jojo! I'm going to kill you. Kill you. But Jojo just looked at Lin Jia coldly and continued, You won't have the chance. Jojo, imitating his big brother before, gathered the blood aura of the Blood Asura into his hands, then slashed fiercely at Lin Jia with a long blade. Lin Jia was slashed deep into the ground by the powerful force. After the smoke cleared, Jojo looked at Lin Jia lying in the fissure and slowly said, Even this couldn't finish you. Your monster vitality really is tenacious. Lin Jia, almost split in two by Jojo, growled lowly, I am the king. I will not die. But at that moment, Lin Jia was shocked to find liquid surging all around him. He asked in horror, What is this? Jojo calmly replied, Small Molotov cocktails couldn't kill you. So I figured I'd try. Using an entire underground oil tank from a gas station. See if that could send you to heaven. This is the coffin I've chosen for you. Farewell. Lin Jia. Meanwhile, back home defending the house. Joe Dad and others suddenly heard a massive explosion in the distance. Joe Dad slowly looked up, wondering what had happened over there. He then saw the sun slowly rising. Joe Dad stood stunned. Then said, "The sun is up." At that moment, Joe Ying shouted, "Look!" They saw the zombies that had been attacking earlier, slowly retreating. Watching the retreating corpse horde, Joe Dad and the others who had defended all night finally showed smiles of survival. Having just defeated Lin Jia, Joe looked at the rising sun and smiled warmly. He was just about to head home when a shout suddenly came from behind. Somehow still alive, Li Qin was now leaning painfully against a wall pillar. She spoke. Joe, help me." After speaking, her head drooped heavily. Hearing the call, Joe turned back to look and asked in confusion, "Li Qin?" At Joe's home, Joe Ying was looking at Joe with disdain and said slowly, "Bro, are you a pervert? How can you strip a girl's clothes right on the street?" Joe replied helplessly, "I was checking if Li Qin had been bitten. Bringing a seemingly normal survivor home without checking is way too risky. There are countless examples of teams getting wiped out because of that. We have to be cautious. Besides, I wasn't wearing a shirt either." "That's fair, right?" Hearing this, Joe Ying looked even more disdainful and said, "Doesn't that just make you seem even more like a pervert? Luckily, I found it first. I told you to stop. Otherwise, it would have been bad if Sister Bingbing saw it." Joe was just about to say, "So what if she sees it?" when the door beside them opened. Sha Bingbing walked out from inside and spoke up. "Li Qin is fine. I've checked her. It's probably due to mental and physical exhaustion. She'll wake up after some rest." After Sha Bingbing finished speaking, she noticed the atmosphere outside was a bit strange and asked suspiciously, "What's wrong?" Joe Ying pretended to cough and said, Nothing. Sister Bingbing. It's good that she's okay." Meanwhile, Joe looked at Sha Bingbing who had come out and said, "Anyway, thank you for your hard work." Hearing this, Sha Bingbing replied gloomily, "No. I didn't do anything. You guys did all the hard work." A while later, Huang Dao, Uncle Niu, and Sha Bingbing said goodbye to Joe and the others. They wanted to take advantage of the safer daytime to check if there were any more survivors in the village. It was their responsibility as village committee members. Joe looked at the dejected Sha Bingbing and shouted loudly, "Sha Bingbing, you don't have to blame yourself. Tide outbreaks can't be prevented just by being cautious. With our abilities, we can't save everyone. The most important thing is that we keep living." Hearing Joe's comfort, Sha Bingbing smiled and replied, I got it." In the car nearby, Joe Ming joked and said, "Not bad. You've finally grown up a little." Joe watched Sha Bingbing and the others leave and said softly, "Yeah. This time, the ending is finally different." Joe Ming behind him asked suspiciously, "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about your emotional intelligence. Forget it. Pretend I didn't say anything." Then he continued, "Let's go. We have to take care of all these zombie corpses." Then the two drove toward the back mountain. After Joe and Joe Ming finished burning the last batch of zombies, Joe looked at the burning corpses and said, "These mutated bodies must be burned. Otherwise, animals might mutate after eating them." Joe Ming said lightly, "Now we can go home and get some good sleep. Juji, you'll drive later. Remember to wash the car at the gas station. Otherwise, the car will be ruined." Hearing that, Joe awkwardly said, "Ah, the gas station." Then quickly reacted, "No wait, Why should I wash it? Zhou Ming smirked and said. Because I'm your big brother. What? You got a problem? Zhou replied. The usual way. Zhou Ming said. Huh? Now? You sure you can still beat me now? Zhou scoffed and said. HMPH. When have I ever lost at ghost catching games? Then the two agreed. Zhou Ming would be the ghost catcher. And Zhou would be the ghost. The ghost catching game rules were. The ghost catcher counts for 10 seconds at the starting point. The ghost took the opportunity to escape. As long as you touch the ghost within 3 minutes, it will be a victory for the ghost hunters. And the only thing the ghost has to do is to run with all their might. Watching Zhou running at full power, Zhou Ming smiled behind him. He slowly opened his mouth and said, Ha! Playing this trick on me? Did you forget? I know this trick too. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Ming had already arrived behind Zhou. Zhou Ming reached out to grab Zhou. Zhou braked sharply without changing his expression and dodged to the side. Then Zhou kept running non-stop in the forest, and Zhou Ming behind him kept chasing closely. Suddenly Zhou leapt up. He jumped upward. Zhou Ming on the ground first looked shocked at Zhou. Then he smirked and rushed forward. Zhou was about to land on a branch, but he found the tree suddenly tipping over. Startled, Zhou hurriedly stabilized himself and fell to the ground. It was Zhou Ming from behind who cut down the tree. At this moment, Zhou Ming was watching Zhou playfully. Zhou, who just landed, suddenly sensed something attacking from behind. Turning his head to look, it turned out Zhou Ming lifted the trunk and rammed it over. Startled, Zhou used both hands to fully block the trunk. The two brothers confronted each other across the trunk. Zhou Ming looked at Zhou opposite him and teased, Hey, still trying to run? But Zhou opposite didn't answer. He fully resisted the trunk. In his heart, he secretly marveled at the force coming from the trunk. Thinking he couldn't offload the force at the moment, he had no choice but to retreat along with the force. Moments later, the trunk slammed into the cliff wall. It exploded. Zhou Ming looked at the exploded trunk in front of him. He scratched his head awkwardly and said, Did I go a little too far? Zhou, are you all right? But as the smoke cleared, there was no sign of Zhou below the cliff. Just as Zhou Ming was puzzled, a stone hit Zhou Ming's head. At the same time Zhou's voice came. 3 minutes are up. This time the ghost wins. Zhou Ming looked at Zhou on the cliff and asked, When did you get up there? Zhou jumped down from the cliff and replied, When I was offloading force against the cliff earlier. Just right then, I roughly figured out our abilities. Zhou Ming opened his mouth and said, I gained this ability by eating Jinhe. Zhou, you ate Jinhe too? Zhou stretched his body and replied, Yeah, sort of. But internally Zhou said it was actually eating money. Then continued speaking. Judging from the contest just now, my ability effect should be borrowing strength. When Zhou Ming heard this, he asked with a confused face. Borrowing strength? Meaning? You can use my ability? Rather than us having the same ability? Zhou replied. You can understand it that way. Brother, your ability is called Blood Pagoda, right? Blood Pagoda's effect is to enhance your strength, speed, and other attributes. It also has a layer of blood energy as a shield, which can block most physical attacks. From the previous situation, I can probably exert about 70% of your power. Zhou Ming said speechlessly. Ha, and I still lost? Zhou continued. Not only that, I seem to be able to grasp the exact stats of your abilities. Zhou Ming said in shock. What the hell? Could it be some kind of system like in those game novels? Zhou felt the changes in himself. He slowly said, Not quite. It's more of a natural feeling. I just happen to be able to quantify it. Let me see. If an adult's average stat is 20, your strength and agility are both 90. Your stamina is 95. And intelligence. Before Jojo could finish, Jo Ming said happily, This ability can even boost IQ. Jojo said speechlessly. It's probably 0. The way you were fighting that stump earlier looked pretty stupid. Jo Ming put his arm around Jojo mischievously and said threateningly, Believe it or not, I'll beat you up. Then suddenly thought of something and said, Oh right. That zombie bear's gold box. I put it in the drawer of your room. Maybe it'll come in handy later. But Jojo said, I actually hope I'll never have to use it. Jo Ming said casually, Better safe than sorry. I'm off to wash the car. Neither Jojo nor Jo Ming noticed that their conversation was overheard by a figure nearby. In the dead of night, a figure sneaked into Jojo's room while he was sleeping, quietly entered the room, picked up the gold box from the drawer, and exclaimed joyfully, Hee hee. Superpowers are mine now. Previously, Joe's mom planned to start stockpiling food at home. So she asked Jojo to go inspect the property. At this time, Jojo was sweating profusely. While working, he was grumbling internally. Clearly Big Brother is free too. Yet I'm the one doing all the heavy work. Our mom is so biased. Helpless Jojo could only activate his cheat. He used his ability to continue clearing the place. Hiding in a corner was Li Qin. She was wearing a white shirt, holding a water cup in her hands. After some inner struggle, Li Qin took a deep breath and walked out. With a big smile, she called out to Jojo. Jojo. So here you are. I've been looking for you for a long time. In front of her, Jojo was cleaning zombie blood off the wall. Jojo heard the voice behind him. He turned around and said, Li Qin, you're okay now? Li Qin stood obediently to the side. With a charming smile, she replied, I'm much better. Thank you. Jojo. You saved me. Jojo said calmly. I promised to help you once. I'm just fulfilling my promise. So you don't need to thank me. Li Qin didn't mind Jojo's indifference. She opened the cup and poured hot water, continuing. No matter what. This is still a life-saving favor. So Jojo, can you help me more in the future? Facing Li Qin's eagerness, Jojo firmly said, No. Li Qin said in disbelief. But. Before Li Qin could say more, Jojo said with his back to her. I already said before. This promise was because back then, Uncle Li took care of our family. Now I have fulfilled it. I have no responsibility or obligation to keep helping you. Hearing Jojo's firm response, Li Qin lowered her head in frustration and whispered, I got it. Jojo stood in front of the freshly cleaned wall surface, feeling the ability inside her body, and sighed. It seems the blood butcher ability can't be used for farming yet. I'll need more training to improve control. At this moment, urgent knocking came from outside the door. Jojo opened the door and looked at the people outside, asking suspiciously, What's going on? Inside the room, the group including Sha Bingbing, who had gone out to search for other survivors, were now sitting on the sofa with heads lowered. Across from them, Jojo spoke with a slightly darkened expression. So the current situation is, there are no more living people in the village. Sha Bingbing bit her lip and said sadly, Sorry. Jojo interrupted Sha Bingbing and said, No. This isn't your fault. I've said before, a tide of failure isn't something you can stop just by preparing ahead. You all risked yourselves to search the entire village. You've done your best. You're already amazing. After a moment of silence, Uncle Niu asked, Then what should we do next? Jojo replied, It's simple. Take a bath. Get some rest. Then have dinner together. No matter what, We're still alive. Fresh from her bath, Sha Bingbing, wearing Zhou Ying's clothes, said awkwardly in a low voice. Xiao Ying's clothes seem a little small for me. Would this look weird? Just then Zhou's mom called out. Bingbing, come quickly. The food is ready. Sha Bingbing hurriedly responded. Okay, thanks auntie. I'm coming now. At the dining table, Zhou's dad and others were laughing and chatting happily. Zhou's mom looked at Sha Bingbing approaching and said meaningfully, Bingbing, sit next to Xiao Zhou. Sha Bingbing replied, okay. Meanwhile, Li Qin, seeing how close Zhou's family was with Sha Bingbing, looked even more uneasy. After everyone sat down, Zhou's dad raised his glass and said, all right. Now that everyone's here, everyone already knows the current situation. At this table, we are the only survivors left in Qingshan village. As for the situation outside, we're not sure right now. Communications haven't been restored either. But we have survived. We made it through the tide of failure. All of us survived. Therefore, from now on, we are family. We'll help each other. Work hard together. Not only to survive, but to live well. Cheers. Just as everyone was about to raise their glasses, the drink in Zhou Ying's hand fell to the ground. Zhou Ming looked at Zhou Ying anxiously and asked hurriedly, Yingzi, what's wrong? At this moment, Zhou Ying's eyes were bloodshot, sweat pouring down, making strange noises from her mouth. Zhou activated her ability and looked at the abnormal Zhou Ying in front of her. Before Zhou could see clearly, Zhou Ying's face twisted viciously and lunged at Zhou. Seeing Zhou Ying biting onto her own arm, Zhou showed no sign of panic. Zhou's dad, mom, and others anxiously called out to Zhou Ying, hoping she would regain consciousness. A moment later, the redness in Zhou Ying's eyes gradually faded. Zhou asked softly, are you awake? Zhou Ying let out an ah and looked around, her expression turning embarrassed, feeling extremely ashamed. Zhou also noticed Zhou Ying's unnatural expression and sighed inwardly, then punched Zhou Ying hard in the stomach before carrying her out, saying to the others as she walked, Yingzi drank something wrong just now. I'm taking her out for some fresh air. You all keep eating. Don't mind us. Everyone saw Zhou Ying vomiting heavily over Zhou's shoulder and believed her explanation. Outside the room, Zhou Ying squatted on the ground covering her head awkwardly, muttering, this is so humiliating. Behind her, Zhou scolded sharply. You actually dared to eat a mutant clam? Good thing you were lucky. You think you'll be lucky every time? Hearing Zhou's scolding, Zhou Ying realized she had been reckless and immediately apologized. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to have an ability too. Zhou looked speechlessly at Zhou Ying, but inside she thought, if she hadn't sensed Yingzi's ability earlier, she might have really been startled. Zhou then sighed, patted Zhou Ying's head, and said, I'll teach you how to use your ability. Close your eyes and feel it. Imagine the ability as a flow of air, filling your entire body. The ability is now a part of you. Your instinct. Now, use this new sense to feel the world. What do you see? Following Zhou's guidance, Zhou Ying slowly sensed the changes around her and softly spoke. Life. I see life circulating. It seems like I can control this flow. Then Zhou Ying released the power of life into the ground, and the potatoes underground immediately sprouted and rapidly grew into mature plants. Looking at the plants in front of her, Zhou Ying asked in surprise, I made the plants grow faster? Zhou replied from the side, judging from the result. That's right. Seeing Zhou also using the same ability to make the potatoes grow rapidly, Zhou Ying exclaimed, Brother, you know this ability too? Jojo didn't answer her question. Instead, he pulled out a mature potato and said, "These are the potatoes I just planted this morning. I was just worrying earlier about how to solve the food problem at home. With your ability, we'll have enough vegetables and fruits from now on." Hearing this, Zhou Ying said in disbelief, "Huh? My ability is actually for farming?" Then she continued painfully, "I thought I could shoot cosmic beams, or summon storms, and transform into a magical girl, but ended up being a farmer instead. I'm so unwilling to accept this." Jojo looked at the disappointed Zhou Ying and said speechlessly, "What the heck are you thinking about all day?" Meanwhile, Jojo thought to herself, "Normally after eating a golden box, only a very low probability of awakening an ability exists. But both Big Brother and Yingza awakened abilities. This can't just be explained by luck." She felt that everything might be connected to her own ability. The next morning, a rooster crowing loudly was grabbed by Jojo by the neck. She said, "So noisy." Then asked Uncle Niu behind her, "Uncle Niu, where did you get this rooster so early?" Uncle Niu raised a hen in his hand and replied, "There's also a hen. It's from my own home. Originally I kept them to lay eggs and hatch chicks." Then Uncle Niu explained, "Years ago, when the village's farm was short of hands, they gave him these when he went to help. Later he didn't eat them, and just kept raising them." After hearing Uncle Niu's explanation, Jojo thought the farm wasn't far from here. So they decided to visit the farm together, hoping to catch some poultry to raise and bring back some hatchable eggs. Looking at the corpses nearby, Huang Dao worriedly asked, "These corpses won't suddenly turn into zombies, right?" Then after checking carefully, he added, "But it looks like these people were stabbed to death by sharp weapons." Jojo replied while walking, "Relax. Zombies don't come out during daytime. Just don't go into any basement without sunlight." The group entered the building. Huang Dao said from behind, "I wonder what it's like outside now. Maybe it's just like our village?" Uncle Niu immediately replied, "Humans have advanced technological weapons. Maybe it won't take long before someone comes to rescue us." Hearing their conversation, Jojo said softly, "It's better not to hope too much. The real terror isn't zombies, but the zombie virus. The disaster caused by the virus is far beyond imagination. We can only rely on ourselves." After hearing Jojo's words, Uncle Niu and Huang Dao fell silent in worry. After a while, Uncle Niu found a large number of eggs in a cabinet and said excitedly, "As long as we control the temperature and humidity, these eggs can be artificially incubated." Huang Dao said suspiciously, "But it's strange. Why are there only eggs? Where are the poultry?" Jojo and Uncle Niu were puzzled too. Even if the poultry died, there should still be corpses. While they were wondering, they heard a loud quack from outside. Jojo immediately turned to look and saw a large goose outside. The large goose was flapping its wings to greet them. Huang Dao said happily, "Lucky. There's still live poultry. Jojo, hand me the sack. I used to work at a farm, feeding and catching poultry. I'm a pro at netting them." Huang Dao took the sack from Jojo and walked toward the goose. Reaching the goose, he easily caught it in one go. Just as Huang Dao was about to brag about his skills, the seemingly docile goose suddenly transformed into a monster with a gaping bloody mouth and lunged at Huang Dao's head. Jojo, activating her ability, instantly dashed to Huang Dao's side and sent the mutated goose flying with a heavy strike, and narrowly saved Huang Dao. Still confused about what just happened, they heard Jojo shout, "Something's wrong, retreat," just as they ran out of the room. Jojo, hearing a strange noise, immediately stopped Huang Dao and Uncle Niu and looked around vigilantly. Moments later, countless mutated geese rushed at them from all directions. The speed of the mutated geese became even faster. Seeing the mutated geese already very close, Jojo quickly glanced sideways and spotted an alley, immediately signaling Huang Dao and Uncle Niu to run this way. But Uncle Niu and Huang Dao were still ordinary people. Their stamina and speed couldn't match Jojo's. Soon they were nearly exhausted. Obviously Jojo also noticed this. Seeing the mutated geese chasing behind, Jojo, with no other choice, could only attempt to activate growth ability. This ability was replicated from Zhou Ying. Jojo controlled the flowing life energy, instantly making the narrow alley filled with vines. The growing vines just managed to block the chasing geese. Jojo turned back and wanted to tell Uncle Niu and Huang Dao to take this chance to escape. But in the next second, she found that in the alley ahead of them, a large number of mutated geese were also blocking the way. Surrounded by mutated geese, Jojo and the others could only choose to hide inside a dormitory. Once inside, Huang Dao and Uncle Niu gasped heavily. Uncle Niu looked downstairs, where countless mutated geese had gathered, and said slowly, "Looks like we're really trapped now. Jojo, you still have a chance. But Xiao Huang and I probably won't survive." Hearing this, Jojo showed a determined expression, and replied, "No. It's my carelessness that put everyone in danger. I'll bring everyone back safe and sound. I promise." "I will. But even if I activate Blood Butcher with full power, carrying 2 adult men, I'm not sure if I can shake off these mutated geese. If I run out of stamina halfway, then we'll really have no way out." Just as Jojo was preparing to take a gamble, Huang Dao suddenly shouted, "Wait! There's a computer here. And the farm still has electricity." Jojo looked at Huang Dao doubtfully. Huang Dao operated the computer and continued, "No problem. The local network is still connected. I might have a way." At this moment, violent banging came from outside the door. Jojo held the iron door while shouting anxiously, "Brother Huang, whatever you're doing, do it quickly. This door can't hold for long." Huang Dao's hands kept typing on the keyboard, and replied, "Give me 5 minutes. No. 3 minutes. I can fix this thing." Hearing Huang Dao's reply, Jojo thought that the iron door would definitely not last 3 minutes. She had to take the initiative. Thinking that, Jojo activated Blood Butcher and blasted the iron door out violently. Instantly the iron door crushed the nearby mutated geese into a pile of meat paste. Walking out of the room, Jojo gripped the door handle, and seeing more mutated geese charging toward her, she immediately raised the iron door in front of herself, blocking the geese's attacks. Taking the chance, Jojo gathered energy into her left fist and smashed it onto the iron door with all her strength. The tremendous force caused the iron door to ripple, crushing all the mutated geese in the corridor into meat paste. After dealing with the mutated geese, Jojo let out a sigh of relief. Just as she thought, this should buy them a bit more time. The next moment she noticed the flesh of those mutated geese was fusing together. At this moment all the flesh began merging. Inside the room, Uncle Niu shouted anxiously at Huang Dao, "Xiao Huang, are you done yet? It sounds intense over there with Jojo. You need to hurry." Huang Dao hurriedly replied, "Just one last step." He prayed silently that Jojo could hold on. He only needed to wait for one last file to finish downloading. Outside the room, Jojo stared in shock at the sight before her. It was a giant flesh monster, formed by the fused bodies of mutated geese. The flesh monster opened its bloody mouth wide and rammed into the iron door in front of Jojo. Jojo felt the tremendous force through the iron door and thought to herself that this was bad. Blood Butcher couldn't hold out. Soon Jojo was sent flying. seriously injured. JoJo couldn't help but cough up blood. As she tried to get up, she suddenly saw Uncle Niu standing in front of her, holding a staff and confronting the flesh monster. Uncle Niu looked resolute, and said slowly, "JoJo, take Xiao Huang and run. I'll buy you some time." Wiping the blood from her mouth, JoJo was about to say something, but Uncle Niu turned and shouted urgently, "Don't hesitate anymore. Otherwise, we'll all die here." Just as Uncle Niu wanted to persuade JoJo further, JoJo had already gotten up and pulled him behind her. She said softly, "I said, I will bring you all back. I won't leave anyone behind." As soon as she finished speaking, JoJo's eyes flashed blood red with Blood Butcher, and bright green with Life Force. She calmly faced the charging flesh monster again, immediately merging both abilities into her right hand, feeling the surging life force and burning destructive force intertwining inside her. JoJo knew she would win. The next moment, JoJo collided with the flesh monster. The fusion of dual abilities greatly enhanced JoJo's strength, instantly shattering the flesh monster. After defeating the flesh monster, the dual abilities inside JoJo gradually faded away. Then she felt extremely weak, unable to even move a finger. Before she could relax, a quack sounded at the end of the corridor. Countless mutated geese charged toward her again. Seeing that there were still more mutated geese left, JoJo thought in shock, "This is bad." She struggled to move her body. Suddenly, music started playing from outside the room. The mutated geese that had charged up suddenly froze upon hearing the broadcast music. They paused, then turned around, and rushed outside. At this time, Huang Dao came out of the room, and asked anxiously, "Uncle Niu, JoJo, are you okay?" Uncle Niu asked in confusion, "Those mutated geese just left on their own? And the broadcast? Xiao Huang, what did you do?" Hearing that, Huang Dao said joyfully, "It worked. I hacked into the broadcasting system using the computer here, and played training music. It's the music the farm used to play during poultry training. As long as they hear it, they'll instinctively return to the feeding area. Luckily, we made it in time. We barely escaped disaster. I'm never coming back to this cursed place again." Then JoJo and the others drove back toward home. In the car, Uncle Niu looked at the eggs beside him, and said with relief, "Luckily, these eggs didn't break." Huang Dao, who was driving, asked, "Uncle Niu, when did you grab those eggs?" Uncle Niu smiled and said, "When you went to catch the goose. I stuffed the eggs into my pocket. But there aren't many of them." Huang Dao asked again, "These eggs won't hatch into mutant poultry, right?" Uncle Niu answered confidently, "No. These eggs are already over a week old." Back then, nothing had happened yet. Sitting in the back of the car, JoJo looked at her palm. Her mind was still recalling the power brought by the fusion of two abilities. Back at JoJo's home, after everyone's discussion, it was decided that starting today, Joe Dad, Joe Uncle, and Huang Dao would form the security team, responsible for patrolling the base perimeter and building defensive facilities. Zhou Ying and Uncle Niu would form the farming and livestock group, responsible for growing crops and raising livestock. Especially with Zhou Ying's ability, it would make crop growth twice as efficient. Next, Zhou Mom and Li Qin would form the supplies management group, responsible for inventory and distribution of supplies, and proposing supply plans. Finally, JoJo and Sha Bingbing would form the exploration group, responsible for searching for supplies nearby and scouting the surrounding situation. After assigning everyone, JoJo returned to her room to prepare for the trip. This time she would make sure to bring all the supplies, and not let anything like the incident at the farm happen again. Just then, a voice called out from behind JoJo. Before she could react, Li Qin grabbed the corner of her clothes, pressed her head against JoJo's back, and said softly, "Joe, Take me with you. Jojo looked at Li Qin in confusion. Li Qin's eyes were filled with fear. She said nervously, I'm afraid of Zhou Ying. No, I want to stay with you. I know a safe place in the village. It has plenty of supplies. If it's just the two of us, we can definitely survive until rescue arrives. I'll listen to everything you say. I'll satisfy your every wish. Forget about everyone else. As Li Qin looked up, she saw Jojo staring at her expressionlessly, making her unable to say another word. Frozen on the spot, Jojo picked up her backpack and walked outside, saying, If you dare say something like abandoning my family again, I'll throw you out and leave you to fend for yourself. Besides, you were the one who abandoned me first, weren't you? Hearing Jojo's words, Li Qin hadn't expected Jojo to be so resolute, and stood there helplessly. Jojo, walking out of the room, suddenly saw Sha Bingbing standing outside the door. Before Jojo could ask, Sha Bingbing spoke softly. Are we heading out? Then Jojo and Sha Bingbing went to a fishing ground. Sha Bingbing looked around and said in surprise, This fishing ground is so remote. No fisherman would ever come here. Who opened this place? Jojo, beside her, answered. It was opened by Lin Jia. I also stumbled across it by accident. Hearing that this place had something to do with Lin Jia, Sha Bingbing asked softly. Speaking of Lin Jia, I've always wondered why he hated you so much. Jojo chuckled lightly. It all started back when we were in school. Let's start from there. When Lin Jia was at school, she always acted superior because her family was rich. Everyone had to yield to her. But I despised people like that. I competed against her in everything. And every time, I beat her. Later, when I got close to Li Qin, she forcibly intervened and snatched Li Qin away. And even flaunted it in front of me many times. Hearing this, Sha Bingbing asked softly. But she didn't even like Li Qin, right? I heard Lin Jia often humiliated her in public. Jojo said indifferently. Lin Jia just wanted to take revenge on me. But I didn't care. Li Qin could be with whoever she wanted. Sha Bingbing asked again. But I heard you two were engaged. Jojo replied helplessly. That was just decided by the adults. Back in school, they were against early relationships. But as soon as we graduated, they pushed for marriage. Sha Bingbing nodded in agreement and said softly. Exactly. We hadn't even dated. And they were already rushing us to marry. Suddenly, Sha Bingbing felt uneasy. She looked toward the lake nearby. The lake looked calm. But for some reason, it gave Sha Bingbing a very eerie feeling. Moments later, Sha Bingbing and Jojo entered a basement. Looking at the huge freezer, Sha Bingbing said, There's actually a freezer here. But isn't this freezer door a bit too much? Jojo, how did you know about this place? Jojo said calmly. I heard Lin Jia mention it before. Just thought I'd take a chance. But deep inside, Jojo thought. In her previous life, after the outbreak, she had stumbled upon this place. Relying on the supplies here, she survived for a long time. However, when she came before, the power was already out. But now there was still electricity. She wondered whether it was because she had stopped the first outbreak, or if there were survivors here. Just then, a scream came from inside the freezer. Startled, Jojo shouted loudly. What's wrong? Inside the freezer, Sha Bingbing sat on the ground and replied nervously. No, it's nothing. I just got startled. This fish head is way too creepy. Is it some kind of rare deep-sea fish? Suddenly, the fish's eye moved, turning blood red. Jojo behind Sha Bingbing rushed forward and slapped the fish head hard. Jojo's pupils shrank, thinking to herself, it's a mutated fish species. The fish head that Jojo slapped remained unharmed, and slowly opened its giant mouth, shooting out a stream of water, blasting JoJo against the wall. JoJo felt the force of the attack on her body, and realized this creature was like a water zombie. Seeing JoJo injured, Sha Bingbing immediately stood in front of her, and guarded against the fish monster, nervously asking, "JoJo, are you okay?" JoJo immediately shouted, "Run! We can't fight it here." Just as she finished speaking, JoJo suddenly noticed the freezer door was closing by itself. JoJo knew there was no time to worry about the closing door. The priority was to deal with the fish monster. Thinking of that, JoJo no longer hesitated. She grabbed a long knife and charged at the fish monster, and slashed hard at it. But the fish monster's scales were incredibly tough, as hard as armor. The long knife couldn't harm it at all. JoJo quickly reacted, and pulled back. After steadying herself, JoJo activated her ability, and charged at the fish monster again, trying to find gaps between its scales. Only by doing so could she kill it. Then JoJo suddenly noticed that the fish monster's gills had no scales covering them. JoJo quickly adjusted her position, and instantly moved behind the monster, thrusting her knife towards its gills. Just as JoJo thought the knife would hit, countless tentacles suddenly emerged from the gills, and tightly bound the long knife. The sudden turn of events left JoJo stunned on the spot. It turned out these tentacles were parasitic mutant worms inside the fish monster. When they sensed danger, they would automatically protect the host. At that moment, the fish monster swatted the stunned JoJo away. After taking the hit, JoJo collapsed weakly in the chaos. When the fish monster approached JoJo, trying to gather water to attack, JoJo suddenly grabbed a cable and shoved it into its mouth. A massive electric shock stunned the fish monster. Then JoJo picked up her knife and finished it off. But JoJo didn't feel relieved. Although the events had changed after her rebirth, those changes were random. But this mutant fish zombie was clearly deliberately placed inside the freezer. Just then Sha Bingbing's voice rang out. "JoJo, are you okay?" JoJo replied, "I'm fine. This place isn't safe. Let's head back quickly." But no matter how much Sha Bingbing twisted the handle, the freezer door wouldn't budge. Sha Bingbing asked in confusion, "What's going on? The door won't open." JoJo replied grimly, "Someone locked it from the outside." After saying that, JoJo activated her dual abilities, combining them into her right hand, and smashed at the freezer door. But after the huge bang, the door remained completely intact. JoJo frowned deeply. She hadn't expected the door to be of bank vault level construction, and being underground, the door was the weakest point. Thinking of this, JoJo gasped and said, "That was my strongest strike. But it's not enough to break through. I need to rest for a bit." Sha Bingbing consoled her. "Rest first. I'll carefully check around the freezer. Maybe there's another way out." After a while, Sha Bingbing looked down in frustration, and said slowly, "There's nothing. I checked all around. There's no other exit." Hearing that, JoJo wasn't surprised. But with the temperature here, at most -18 degrees Celsius, they wouldn't last long. And even if they endured the cold, they would eventually die of suffocation. In this sealed room, JoJo knew they couldn't waste time. Thinking of this, JoJo slowly stood up, ready to use her fused dual abilities again. Just then, Sha Bingbing took out a zombie golden box, and hesitantly said, "This. If I eat this, I'll have powers like you, right? Right?" JoJo looked at the box in Sha Bingbing's hand, and froze for a second. Then quickly grabbed Sha Bingbing's hand, and said in anger, "Do you know what this means? There's a risk. What if?" Before JoJo could finish speaking, Sha Bingbing said in a low voice, But your ability just now can't be used continuously. And its effect is limited. Jojo, you know that. If this continues, we'll both die. So, let's bet it all one last time. Bet that I can survive. And awaken an ability that can help us escape. Hearing this, Jojo thought about Sha Bingbing's sense-type ability from her previous life. Would it be different this time because of her interference? Maybe things will change. After a long silence, Jojo let go of her hand, forcing a smile, and softly said to Sha Bingbing, "Are you ready?" Jojo knew that just as Sha Bingbing said, relying only on herself made it hard to escape. And Sha Bingbing had shown enough courage. So why should she hesitate? Sha Bingbing looked at the golden box in her hand, and said softly, "If it were before, maybe I would have been scared. But now with you here, I feel I can do it." Meanwhile, in the forest, Joe's father and uncle were anxiously calling out Jojo and Sha Bingbing's names. But because before leaving, Jojo didn't tell anyone their destination, so no one knew where they were now. As night was approaching, Joe's father and uncle became even more anxious. At that moment in the forest, a loud zombie roar echoed. Joe's father said in shock, "Aren't zombies supposed to appear only at night?" Joe's uncle said, "Something is wrong." Just as they were confused, a scream came from afar. Joe's uncle's heart jolted. Then he said urgently, "Crap, it's Huang Dao." At the same time, they were being watched by a shadow behind a tree. "I don't know. My whole body feels like it's burning. I feel terrible, so hot." After the apocalypse in the previous life, on a rooftop in the city, a voice rang in Jojo's ear. "Jojo, wake up." Jojo slowly opened his eyes, looking at Sha Bingbing beside him. Sha Bingbing said urgently again, "Get up. Something's wrong. There are 4 grade 4 dog types nearby, and 2 grade 6 tiger types." Jojo immediately grabbed the binoculars to look into the distance, and said gravely, "In 20 minutes, they'll gather thousands of zombies. We must notify the teams to retreat immediately." Sha Bingbing said desperately, "It's too late. I'll stay here and draw the leaders away." Jojo said urgently, "Captain, Sha Bingbing calmly replied, "You staying won't help. You haven't awakened an ability. You'll only drag me down." Hearing this, Jojo fell into deep guilt. He clearly survived the mutation, but didn't awaken any ability. Why? After a moment of silence, Jojo said to Sha Bingbing seriously, "Sha Bingbing, come back alive." Sha Bingbing looked up at Jojo and nodded firmly. At that moment, a voice pulled Jojo out of his memories. Beside him, Sha Bingbing was steaming all over, her face full of pain. Jojo was shocked and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you so hot?" Sha Bingbing tore at her clothes and said with difficulty, "I don't know. It feels like my whole body is being roasted. I feel terrible, so hot." Hearing this, Jojo immediately moved to the side and brought some ice to Sha Bingbing to help cool her down. After a while, Sha Bingbing was left wearing only a few pieces of underwear, and the burning heat from her body finally began to dissipate. Jojo asked, "Feeling better?" Sha Bingbing softly grunted in response. "Jojo, I think I see zombies. A lot of them. Everywhere." Jojo showed a helpless expression and replied softly, "Don't panic. That's your ability." But inside, he understood. Sha Bingbing had awakened the sensing ability. Now they truly had no way out. But Sha Bingbing then said, "I see a lot of zombies below, under the floor." Jojo's heart tightened, and he immediately asked, "Under the floor? Could it be?" Moments later, Jojo found a hidden trapdoor in a concealed spot. Then the two of them followed a ladder into the underground tunnel beneath the cold storage. Just then, A sudden zombie roar echoed. Jojo looked at Sha Bingbing behind him and said seriously, "It's too dark here. I can't see. Everything depends on you now." After hearing this, Sha Bingbing pointed at herself and said incredulously, "Me?" Jojo gripped the long blade in his hand, got into an attack stance, then said to Sha Bingbing, "It's okay, you can do it." Seeing Jojo trust her so much, Sha Bingbing suppressed her inner unease and nodded. She then activated her ability, sensing the position of nearby zombies, and relayed the information to Jojo. Even though Jojo couldn't see the zombies, he could easily kill them, with Sha Bingbing's built-in X-ray ability helping. It didn't take long for Jojo to eliminate all the zombies. Soon, Jojo and Sha Bingbing reached the end of the secret passage. It was a room cluttered with debris. After looking around, they didn't see any passage connecting to the outside. Just as they were at a loss, Jojo looked at a nearby pool and said softly, "There's a waterway here. It should lead to the big fish pond at the fish farm." They then used the underwater passage to reach beneath the pond. Just when Sha Bingbing thought they could finally escape, a giant mutated fish monster appeared beside her. Before she could react, the fish monster bit into her. The next moment, it tried to drag her into the depths of the pool. Jojo reacted immediately, grabbing Sha Bingbing's hand, trying to pull her from the fish monster's mouth. But faced with the fish monster's immense bite strength, they were locked in a stalemate. Feeling the monster's strength, Sha Bingbing realized she couldn't escape and would only drag Jojo down. She forced a smile with difficulty, looked at Jojo, and, under his shocked gaze, shook off his hand. Then she was dragged into the depths by the fish monster. If your brother was bitten by a zombie, what would you do? Jojo watched Sha Bingbing being dragged deeper and deeper, and thought of his past life. Back then, he had also left Sha Bingbing alone to face danger. But in this life, Jojo swore he would never make the same choice. Then Jojo leapt and swam toward the fish monster, activating his inner powers, causing the underwater weeds to grow rapidly. The spreading weeds not only blocked the fish monster, but tightly bound it inside the monster's mouth. Sha Bingbing weakly opened her eyes and saw Jojo swimming toward her. She tried to say something, but then lost consciousness. When Sha Bingbing woke up from her coma, she instinctively sat up and shouted Jojo's name. Hearing her, Jojo turned around and asked warmly, "You're awake? Good timing, I just heated some canned food. Eat some to regain strength. As for the fish here, they're probably not edible anymore." Sha Bingbing looked at the canned food Jojo brought and softly said thank you. Then she asked in confusion, "What about that monster fish? I only remember you swimming toward me, and then I lost consciousness." Jojo calmly replied, "It probably became fertilizer for other fish at the lake bottom. It was just bigger in size. Not even as troublesome as the mutant fishman from the freezer." Jojo paused, then suddenly remembered something. He said in a deep voice, "However, these mutated fish will spread along the water sources. And this change is happening worldwide. It's inevitable now." At that moment, Sha Bingbing softly called Jojo's name and said with a complicated tone, "Back in school, you were always silent and distant. You were hard to approach. At that time, I thought you were difficult to get along with. And we barely interacted. But ever since the zombie outbreak, you've saved me time and again, even risking your own life. Why is that?" Jojo lowered his eyes, not looking at Sha Bingbing, and said softly, "Actually, I saved you before because I needed your ability to protect my family." Hearing this, Sha Bingbing felt disappointed and said, "I see." After a moment of silence, Sha Bingbing blushed slightly and asked again. What about now? Jojo glanced at Sha Bingbing. Then quickly looked away awkwardly, struggling to find words to say. Feeling shy, Sha Bingbing turned her head away and said in a low voice, So when are we going back? Jojo replied. Let's go now. With your ability, we can avoid the zombies. With Sha Bingbing's help. Not long after, Jojo and Sha Bingbing safely returned home. Seeing them return safely, Jo Ying rushed into Jojo's arms, full of worry, and said, You're finally back. Do you know how worried I was? Having arrived home, Jojo also let out a sigh of relief and said with a soft smile, Cut it out. Nothing happened at home, right? Hearing Jojo's question, Jo Ying suddenly fell silent. Then said in a low tone, Come inside first. As soon as Jojo entered the house, he heard Huang Dao's painful screams and saw his father and elder brother standing solemnly to the side. A bad feeling rose in his heart when he saw Huang Dao tied up. He asked in shock, What happened? Zhou Ming explained from the side. We went to look for you and Sha Bingbing, but got ambushed by a zombie horde. I tried to get a second-grade zombie core to save him, but I failed. Uncle Niu, sitting on the sofa, also looked blankly at Jojo and asked softly, Little Huang, can he still be saved? Hearing this, Jojo looked at Huang Dao. At this point, Huang Dao's eyes were blood red, with veins bulging on his face. It was a sign the virus had invaded his brain. Even if a core was used now, Huang Dao would only turn into a monster like Ling Jia. Just as Jojo was hesitating on what to say, Huang Dao, regaining a little consciousness, spoke painfully. I don't want to become a zombie. Don't hesitate. Make it quick. Jojo lowered his head, gripping the hilt of his blade, hesitating inside. Just then, Jojo suddenly sensed something behind him. He immediately activated his ability to look back. Standing behind him was Jo Mom. At this moment, her whole body was trembling uncontrollably, and her eyes were full of struggle. Jojo turned around and grabbed Jo Mom's arm, pulling her aside. He then took a golden core from his pocket and handed it to Jo Mom, speaking anxiously. Mom, hurry and eat this. Jo Mom asked in confusion. Is this the golden core your uncle took? Where did you get it? Jojo didn't explain much, only saying he got it at the fish farm, and kept urging her to eat it quickly. Just as Jo Mom was about to ask more questions, a painful roar came from Huang Dao. Uncle Joe anxiously said, Zhou Zi. Huang is barely holding on. Hearing this, Jojo froze. He cursed inwardly. Damn it. Still too late? If this keeps up, Mom's awakening won't make it in time, and Huang will turn into a zombie. I have to decide now. Thinking of this, Jojo quickly moved in front of Huang Dao, raising his long blade, ready to strike. Suddenly, a powerful energy surged from behind him. Jojo was shocked and turned around immediately. He saw Jo Mom floating in midair. Her appearance greatly changed, emitting a sacred aura from her entire body. Then Jo Mom gently waved her hand, and the energy landed on Huang Dao. Immediately, the zombie virus in Huang Dao's body started to recede. His blood-red eyes gradually cleared up. Moments later, Huang Dao looked at his body in disbelief and said excitedly, Look, I'm cured. But no one paid attention to his changes. Everyone stared at Jo Mom in shock, stunned that not only had she awakened an ability, but even her appearance had changed. Seeing his mother truly awaken her power, Jojo finally relaxed. He then explained to everyone that Jo Mom's ability was purification. It could release a healing light to cleanse the zombie virus from the body. However, this ability only harmed those who had fully turned into zombies. As for how he knew Joe Mom would awaken this ability, Joe explained to everyone that he had simply sensed it at the time. But as for why he had such a sense, Joe himself didn't know the specific reason. It was similar to how he had previously sensed his brothers and Ying's abilities. And this sensing ability seemed to be continuously growing. However, Joe also noticed there was a limitation. He couldn't sense Sha Bingbing's ability, nor could he borrow her power. Regarding this limitation, Joe could only conclude that his ability was currently limited to family members. The more family members awakened powers, the stronger his ability would become. After everyone left to rest, Joe said seriously to Sha Bingbing, "Let's start. Bingbing, please check how many zombies are nearby." After softly responding, Sha Bingbing fully activated her ability. As her sensing range expanded, it didn't take long for Sha Bingbing to detect the traces of nearby zombies. She softly said to Joe, "There are nearly 100 in the forest by the mine, and about another 100 on the back mountain." Joe asked, "Did you spot any second-grade zombies? Did you spot any second-grade zombies?" Sha Bingbing replied softly, "Yes, there are currently 3. Hearing this, Joe thought that would be enough for his mom, Huang, and Uncle Niu. With that, the family's combat power would be complete. While Joe was still thinking about how to hunt zombies, Sha Bingbing suddenly said in shock, "The zombies are moving. And they are moving almost simultaneously. They're converging on one location." Sha Bingbing continued expanding her sensing ability, and soon discovered a figure standing among the zombie horde. When Sha Bingbing saw the face clearly, she said in disbelief, "It's Ling Jia." All the zombies were moving toward Ling Jia. Hearing this, Joe was also confused, thinking to himself, "I saw Ling Jia burned into a charred corpse with my own eyes. Could what Sha Bingbing saw really still be that Ling Jia?" He then said to Sha Bingbing, "Damn it! The one who closed the freezer door earlier was Ling Jia after all. And the attack on Huang and the others in the forest was probably also her doing." Sha Bingbing asked worriedly, "What should we do? Should we notify everyone and set up defenses like before?" Joe thought for a moment, then said seriously, "Given the situation now, Ling Jia will need about a day to gather enough zombies. Instead of waiting for them to attack us, let's strike first. Catch them off guard in the forest behind the mountain." After looking around, Joe slowly said, "Ling Jia, I know you're here. Come out." A figure was crouching on a boulder not far away. It was none other than the supposedly dead Ling Jia. Ling Jia looked at Joe and sneered coldly. Well, Joe, you actually came to die voluntarily." Joe replied expressionlessly, "Really? But weren't you the one pretending to be dead last time?" Hearing this, Ling Jia became furious and shouted, "Shut up!" She then lunged at Joe with her claws. Seeing the claws approaching, Joe's eyes narrowed slightly. He dodged to the side, and his long blade slashed fiercely across Ling Jia's chest. Joe noticed that Ling Jia still bore the marks from her previous burns. He thought to himself, "Just as I suspected, your burns haven't fully healed. That's why in the freezer, you didn't dare act directly, but instead used tricks. Turns out you're still a petty coward." Ling Jia, having her thoughts exposed, shouted sharply, "Don't get cocky. Even injured. You alone." Before Ling Jia could finish, a huge explosion erupted from the other side of the forest. Ling Jia trembled, a bad premonition rising in her heart. Meanwhile, Joe said calmly, "Were you going to say you had reinforcements? Too bad. I already knew. I had them intercepted halfway. This time, you're dead. At the explosion site, Joe Ba stood atop a tree, looking down at the zombie horde that had been wiped out. Didn't expect this, did you? We were waiting for you here too. Turned you all into ashes. Below, Joe Mom stared emotionlessly into the distance, where another wave of zombies was gathering again. Without hesitation, Joe Mom fully unleashed her evolution-powered ability. This ability was the nemesis of the zombie virus. When zombies came into contact with Joe Mom's power, their bodies ignited with a ghostly blue flame. Watching the zombies being easily dealt with, Joe Mom sensed her energy and sighed. All settled at once. This ability is quite handy. Hearing this, Joe Dad immediately hugged Joe Mom and loudly praised her as amazing. Joe Mom looked disgusted and ignored him, instead using her earpiece to contact Sha Bingbing at home. After reporting that Point A had been cleared, she asked where the next target was. At home, Sha Bingbing used her ability to scout the nearby zombie locations. Everything had already been mapped out. After hearing that Joe Mom had cleared one gathering point, Sha Bingbing quickly replied, "Next target is 1 kilometer to the northwest. 24 zombies." After receiving the information, Joe Mom asked with concern, "Bingbing, how's your side? Is it safe?" Sha Bingbing softly replied, "Don't worry. We're hiding in the cellar, and the entrance is guarded." Then Sha Bingbing asked Uncle Joe, "Uncle Joe, are you okay alone?" Hearing her question, Uncle Joe, already proficient in using his ability, replied easily, "Don't worry. These zombies aren't even enough for me." Hearing this over the walkie-talkie, Joe Dad also laughed heartily and happily said, "Those zombies wouldn't have dreamed we would strike first." Uncle Joe added, "It's all thanks to Sha Bingbing, her intel and guidance." Then he said to Sha Bingbing, "From now on, you're our team commander." Hearing the praise from everyone, Sha Bingbing shyly replied, "It's all thanks to everyone's efforts. I just helped a little." Meanwhile, Lin Jia, still recovering from old wounds, was completely suppressed by Joe. He was struggling to defend himself. Lin Jia couldn't believe the gap between his strength and Joe's had grown so wide. His eyes widened, and he shouted unwillingly, "I can't lose." Hearing this, Joe sneered, "Both your flanks were crushed. Mid lane was overwhelmed by me too. Do you still think you can turn the tide?" As he spoke, Joe gathered power into his hands again, and softly said to Lin Jia, "It's over." Lin Jia, head lowered in silence, suddenly gritted his teeth and said sharply, "Yeah, it's over." At that moment, Sha Bingbing at home tensed up and urgently shouted to Joe, "Joe, be careful. 3 second-grade zombies are heading your way." As soon as Sha Bingbing finished speaking, Joe saw right in front of him. Joe suddenly saw 3 giant mutated zombies appear before him. Joe was momentarily stunned, then spoke grimly to Lin Jia, "Just some pathetic mutated zombies. Lin Jia, you don't think you can beat me with them, do you?" Hearing this, Lin Jia let out a low chuckle and said softly, "Who said I was using them to fight? Watch carefully." After speaking, Lin Jia reached out and extracted the golden cores from the mutated zombies' heads, then stuffed them into his mouth without hesitation. Moments later, Lin Jia, who had mutated again, slowly said to Joe, "This is my true power." Facing Lin Jia, who had evolved into a 3rd-tier mutant, a strong sense of danger rose in Joe's heart. In the next instant, Joe activated his power, gripped his long blade, and instantly flashed in front of Lin Jia. But facing Joe's attack, Lin Jia didn't dodge. He casually raised his right hand and blocked Joe's blade. then slapped Jojo flying with a palm strike. Lin Jia watched Jojo fly off and sneered. Jojo, is that all you've got? As soon as Lin Jia finished speaking, Jojo steadied himself again, gathered strength, and punched Lin Jia in the chest. But even this attack failed to inflict any real damage on Lin Jia. Lin Jia continued coldly. How disappointing. Your power. Is this all it amounts to? At least, it should be like this. As he finished speaking, Lin Jia grabbed Jojo's head and slammed it hard into the ground. But when the dust settled, Jojo's figure was nowhere to be seen, leaving only a deep crater, with traces of green energy lingering around. Seeing this, Lin Jia couldn't help but frown, then muttered, "There's another ability?" He escaped underground. After a moment of silence, Lin Jia sneered, "No matter. I'll find you and kill you slowly. Then slaughter your family." Meanwhile, not far away in a grove, Jojo crawled out from a tree, looking extremely disheveled. Having exhausted a lot of his power, Jojo was panting heavily. Thinking of the power Lin Jia had just displayed, Jojo mused to himself. So this is a third-tier mutant's power. In my past life, I never faced one directly. I didn't expect it to be this strong. Even with Big Brother and Mom combined, we might not stand a chance against Lin Jia now. I must find a way to completely eliminate Lin Jia. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just then, an overwhelming sense of pressure rose in Jojo's heart. He frowned tightly and looked up at the sky. The once white moon now appeared dyed red, like blood. Beneath the blood-red moon, a blue wave of light slowly rose in the distance. Suddenly, a red beam of light collided with the blue wave. As a huge explosion sounded, the colorful shockwave expanded outward. In the next moment, Jojo's pupils shrank as he saw two figures within the light. Before Jojo could figure it out, he heard Lin Jia's mocking voice behind him. "Jojo, you actually have time to get distracted. Could it be you're underestimating me?" As Jojo was about to turn around, he was struck and sent flying by Lin Jia's tail. He crashed heavily into a boulder. The sudden attack struck Jojo. He no longer had the strength to stand up. Lin Jia then walked over to Jojo. He crouched down, placing his finger on Jojo's forehead, and sneered. "Why don't you use your power to escape? Since you can't run anymore, then just die." But just then, the expanding halo covered both Lin Jia and Jojo. Once enveloped by the halo, their bodies seemed frozen, stiff and unable to move. No matter how Jojo tried, his body couldn't move. It was as if time had stopped around him. But soon Jojo realized that although he couldn't move, he could still activate his power. He then gathered his energy on his forehead, instantly piercing through Lin Jia's skull. As the halo slowly faded, Lin Jia, regaining control of his body, clutched his eyes in pain and screamed. Then, Lin Jia fled in terror into the forest. Watching Lin Jia flee, the weakened Jojo could no longer support himself and collapsed onto the ground. At that moment, Uncle Joe, guided by Sha Bingbing, found this place. Seeing the severely injured Jojo, he anxiously asked, "Josie, are you okay?" Jojo weakly replied to his brother, "Don't worry about me." Lin Jia ran toward the forest. Go after him. Because Jojo knew that Lin Jia had to be eliminated immediately. The world was changing fast. The two figures that appeared in the sky earlier were high-tier ability users that shouldn't exist yet. In his previous life, after the zombie outbreak, Jojo, the sole survivor of Qingshan village, was found by a team of survivors. The leader of the survivor team looked at Jojo as if he were an ant, and softly asked, "How many zombies are there in Qingshan village?" Jojo lifted his eyelids slightly, and replied in a low voice, "A lot. Nearly 1,000. Very dangerous. Hearing JoJo's answer, the other members of the team burst into laughter. Mocking. Only 1,000? And that's dangerous? Another useless weakling. The team leader then continued to ask. What's the highest tier zombie? How many of them? After a moment's silence, JoJo lowered his head and replied. 4th tier. Only one. Hearing this, the team leader laughed excitedly. Not bad. A 4th tier zombie. He then said to JoJo. All right. Go over there and put on the shackles. JoJo raised his head and looked behind him, only to see that on a dead tree, many ordinary humans were tied up. Obviously, they had been enslaved. Unwilling to submit, JoJo immediately got up and tried to run into the depths of the forest. But before he could get far, a powerful energy wave struck him. The energy turned into roaring flames, blocking his escape. The team leader sneered and said, Trying to run? We high-tier ability users are the new humans chosen by the gods. Weaklings like you deserve only to be our slaves. In the present, JoJo arrived at the spot where the blue light had fallen the day before. Looking at the devastated ground, JoJo realized this must be connected to high-tier ability users. His past experiences told him that many high-tier ability users were scumbags. These people are even more dangerous than zombies. I must figure things out ahead of time. Moments later, JoJo discovered a huge pit at the foot of the back hill. And in that pit, there was a glowing white crystal at least half as tall as a person. It was shining brightly. As JoJo slowly approached the crystal, his heart trembled slightly. He suddenly felt an urge to devour the crystal. As JoJo reached out to touch it, an alarm rang in his mind. He immediately activated his power and pulled away from the crystal. He then asked sternly, Who's there? The next moment, a shadow instantly appeared behind JoJo. A voice said, Looks like you're the survivor here. The man glanced at JoJo's fingers against his throat and continued, Pretty alert, huh? Looks like you have potential. You're worth cultivating. Facing the middle-aged man behind him, JoJo said calmly, Move your hand. I'm asking you one last time. Who are you? The middle-aged man casually waved his hand and smiled. All right, I'll tell you. My name is Takahashi Kita, a 3rd-tier ability user. As soon as Takahashi finished speaking, he saw JoJo gathering power in his right hand and punching toward his face. Facing JoJo's attack, Takahashi didn't even flinch. He lightly activated his ability, and the space around him began to distort. Then he vanished from his original spot. As JoJo looked on in surprise, Takahashi reappeared beside the white crystal and said helplessly, You really can't take a joke, huh? I was just teasing. Don't take it so seriously. He then pointed at the white crystal and explained, Relax. I'm not here for you or your family and friends. I'm here for this primordial core. Hearing this, JoJo finally let his guard down. He asked suspiciously, What is this? Takahashi was slightly stunned and asked in surprise, You don't know? I thought you came here knowing. Looks like you're just a rookie who just awakened. Takahashi didn't intend to hide anything from JoJo. He then explained, Ever played MMORPGs? This crystal is like an upgrade item for us ability users. We can level up by absorbing zombie cores, but that can only get us to tier 4 at most. To go beyond that, we need primordial cores. After saying that, Takahashi lightly tapped the primordial core, and a palm-sized shard landed in JoJo's hand. Looking at the shard, JoJo said calmly, This isn't free, is it? What do you want from me? Takahashi chuckled and said, Smart. In the future, I might need your help. Until then, focus on leveling up your power. At this point, Takahashi's body was slowly fading into space. Before disappearing, he added, By the way, One more thing. There really are gods in this world. As soon as he finished speaking, Takahashi and the primordial core disappeared from the place together, leaving JoJo standing alone. JoJo remained in place, recalling Takahashi Kita's last words. A strong sense of crisis rose in JoJo's heart. Takahashi Kita's words still echoed in JoJo's ears. JoJo muttered, "There are gods in this world? Impossible. That guy must be crazy." Although JoJo tried to convince himself that there couldn't possibly be gods in this world, he remembered what the leader of that team said in his past life. High-level ability users were chosen by the gods. JoJo's belief in atheism began to waver. If gods truly existed, was this apocalypse related to them? As these doubts filled JoJo's mind, the surrounding energy changed drastically, causing JoJo to be on high alert. He furrowed his brows and looked ahead, only to see a dazzling light erupting from the bottom of the pit. As the light gradually faded, a crystal radiating blue light floated mid-air where the round box had been. JoJo stared at it in confusion. Could it be? Could this thing have grown from where the round box was? Before JoJo could figure it out, the blue crystal suddenly vibrated violently, then shot rapidly toward him. In the next moment, it entered JoJo's body before he could dodge. JoJo's eyes glowed blue, and he screamed in pain. The once clear sky suddenly darkened. The violent energy lifted JoJo into the air. Meanwhile, in the forest, Jo Shu and Jo Ying, searching for JoJo, became even more anxious as they saw the sudden mist. At that moment, Jo Shu gently patted Jo Ying's shoulder and whispered, "Don't make a sound." Jo Ying was startled and followed Jo Shu's gaze forward. Through the thick mist, a figure flickered. The blue light around it was glaring. Looking at the figure, Jo Ying said fearfully, "Big brother. Could that be a ghost?" Jo Shu replied speechlessly, "Don't talk nonsense. There's no such thing as ghosts." The figure in the mist slowly approached them. Just as the figure's face was about to become clear, it suddenly vanished into the mist. Before Jo Shu and Jo Ying could react, from the distant forest, a dazzling blue light shot into the sky. Jo Ying immediately shouted to Jo Shu, "Big brother! What's happening over there? Could it be an immortal transcending tribulation?" Seeing the change, Jo Shu immediately activated his powers. Hearing Jo Ying's words, he said helplessly, "Read fewer novels. Trust science more. I'll go check it out. You stay here." Before Jo Ying could react, Jo Shu's body suddenly expanded, and he leapt up, rushing toward the light. Coming to his senses, Jo Ying's eyes glowed green. He infused his powers into a thick vine, which lifted him into the air, and rapidly grew toward the light. Ahead, Jo Shu sensed the movement behind him, and slowly stopped. Seeing Jo Ying sliding to a halt before him, Jo Shu said helplessly, "I told you it's dangerous." "You're still making excuses?" Jo Ying panted and said, "Precisely because it's dangerous. That's why I have to come along. More people means more strength." The next moment, Jo Ying pointed ahead in shock, shouting loudly, "Big brother! Look!" Following Jo Ying's gaze, they saw a massive blue light circle enveloping JoJo. JoJo was floating midair with closed eyes, his brows slightly furrowed. Looking closely, a faintly glowing blue crystal was connected to his chest. Jo Shu shouted anxiously like he was giving an order, "Zhaozi, don't panic. I'm coming to save you." With that, Jo Shu gathered strength and punched hard at the light barrier. However, when his full strength punch hit the barrier, it only created water-like ripples. Seeing that his attack had no effect, Jo Shu frowned deeply. Strange. This barrier looks soft. But it's completely unbreakable. At that moment, the blue crystal on Jojo's chest shattered into pieces and was absorbed into his body. Then Jojo, who had his eyes shut, suddenly opened his eyes wide, bursting out a blinding blue light. As Jojo's internal energy gradually stabilized, the surroundings slowly calmed down as well. When Jojo drowsily woke up from his sleep, Jo Ying said happily, "Second brother, you're finally awake." Jo Shu also said, "That's great. You were unconscious for a whole day. You almost scared us to death." At the end of the bed, Jo Ma looked at Jojo angrily and said, "Running off without recovering from injuries. And not even taking a walkie-talkie. What the hell were you thinking?" Jojo tried recalling what happened yesterday, but his memory was blurry. Seeing his confused expression, Jo Ying asked puzzledly, "You don't remember anything either? You were trapped inside a blue light ball. Then the ball broke open by itself." Before Jo Ying could finish, Jojo's eyes sharpened, and a blue light burst out. At the same time, a blue panel appeared before Jojo's eyes. Jo Ying, female, 16 years old. Ability, growth ability, Tier 1. Upgrade requirement, 2 Grade 2 zombie cores. 2 needed. Chance to upgrade to Tier 5. 19%. Required primitive cores for upgrade. 1. Looking at the panel data, Jojo was momentarily stunned, muttering, What is this? Jo Ying's character information? Why can I see these?" Then Jojo turned to look at Jo Ma. And the panel data changed again. Xie Fang. Female. 52 years old. Ability, Holy Light Purification. Tier 1. Upgrade requirement, 3 Grade 2 zombie cores. 3 needed. Chance to upgrade to Tier 5. 0.3%. Required primitive cores for upgrade. 1. Jo Shu's data panel also appeared. Jo Shu. Male. 28 years old. Ability, Snow Hidden Diagram. Stage 1. Upgrade requirement, 2 Tier 2 zombie cores. 2. Chance of advancing to high stage 5. 12%. Number of original cores needed for promotion. 1. Seeing this information, Jojo thought to himself, based on this information, only original cores can upgrade abilities to high stages. But the success rate is extremely low. And currently, there's no known way to improve it. If the promotion fails, the consequences are unknown. Even though he had an original core, he couldn't use it lightly. Time was running out for him. Before those people arrived, he had to become stronger. While Jojo was deep in thought, Jo Dad said beside him, "You little brat. Wake up." Jojo looked at Jo Dad helplessly and said, "Dad, what are you doing?" Jo Dad replied, "You've been spacing out. What are you thinking about?" Jo Dad's data panel also appeared in front of Jojo. Jo Jianao. Male. 51 years old. Awakened ability, Jauntization, not yet awakened. Awakening probability, 4%. Due to influence from other abilities. Corrected probability, 100%. Awakening requirement, 1 Tier 1 zombie core. Chance of advancing to high stage 5. Minus 70%. Number of original cores needed for promotion, 1. After reading the data panel, Jojo got off the bed. Then he said, all right, I'm fine. Stop worrying so much." But deep down, Jojo wasn't as calm as he appeared. Now he could even see other people's awakening abilities. It was like he was cheating. As Jojo got up and was about to leave, Jo Ying asked helplessly, "Where are you going again?" Jojo casually replied, "Nowhere. After lying for a day, I'm going outside to get some air." Then he left without looking back. Watching Jojo's back, Jo Ying said unhappily, That's so heartless. We were so worried about him. Joe Shu, standing nearby, said. Maybe Jojo has something on his mind. Let's not bother him. Sha Bingbing saw Jojo coming out. And happily said. Jojo, you're awake. Perfect timing. I just made some food. Come have some. After sleeping all day. Jojo felt hungry too. He replied. Thanks. I'm starving. Joe Shu, watching from the balcony, laughed and said. Jojo, this kid is good. When did he manage to win over Sha Bingbing? Zhou Ying nearby had a just as expected look and said. You just noticed? Ever since he spent a night with Sister Bingbing. He's basically locked it in. The two of them got together. At this moment, Joe Dad walked out of the room. Looking at Uncle Joe, he said. You better hurry up too. Zhaozi already has a girlfriend. And you're still a bachelor. Hearing this, Uncle Joe showed a helpless expression. Zhou Ying also chimed in. Exactly. Since childhood, we've only seen you bring your buddies home. But never a sister-in-law. Meanwhile, after Jojo finished eating, he asked softly. By the way, where is Lin Jia now? Can you still sense him? Sha Bingbing replied. No. He's outside the range of my ability sensing. Earlier, Big Brother Joe Shu also searched around, but didn't find him. Hearing this, Jojo fell into deep thought. In his previous life, Lin Jia was just a small character who died in a tide of zombies. He didn't care much back then. But now, he turned into such a big threat. It was his own carelessness. Seeing Jojo deep in thought, Sha Bingbing said softly. Why are you always frowning lately? It's not like you at all. When the zombies first appeared, everyone was scared. But you stayed so calm. And helped everyone solve one crisis after another. At that time, I felt that no matter what happened, you could always handle it calmly. You gave a sense of great reliability. But one person's ability is limited after all. You can't always carry the burdens alone. So if there really is something you can't handle alone, you can tell me and everyone. After all, we're family. After Sha Bingbing finished speaking, Jojo smiled and said, Family? Hearing Jojo's question, Sha Bingbing blushed and shyly lowered her head. She hurriedly said, No, I mean, you can treat me as your family. Wait, no. Me and your family together. Ah! Seeing the flustered Sha Bingbing, Jojo relaxed and said, I understand. Then he shouted loudly toward the balcony. Hey, you guys hiding by the window. We need to discuss something. Hearing Jojo's voice, everyone looked at each other, confused. Then Jojo told them about meeting a third-tier ability user and how to ascend ranks. At the same time, to prepare for future changes, they planned to drive out of the village to search for more supplies. Inside the car, Zhou Ying said, That's great. Doesn't that mean we're not the only survivors? Hearing this, Jojo lowered his eyes without speaking. On the side, Joe Mom worriedly said, If you ask me, this might not be a good thing. In times of peace, maybe people can get along. But in the apocalypse, human nature can't stand any tests. To survive, sometimes people are no different from zombies. When people go crazy, they can be far more dangerous than zombies. At this, Jojo said firmly, That's why we must unite. Improve our abilities. Gather weapons and supplies. And protect our home. Driving the car, Joe Dad laughed heartily. Joe Z is right. If anyone dares to mess with us, we'll make sure they pay dearly. Not long after, Jojo and the others stopped by the roadside near the fish farm. Looking at the fish farm ahead, Joe's dad asked, Joe Z, is that the fish farm you mentioned? Is there really gunpowder inside? Jojo nodded and said, Yeah. If I'm right, there's not just gunpowder inside, but also Before Jojo could finish, a massive explosion suddenly came from the fish farm. Huge flames shot straight into the sky. Seeing this scene, Jojo's eyes were filled with shock. His mouth slightly agape. Moments later, the thick smoke inside the fish farm gradually dispersed. A group of heavily armed humans slowly walked out. Seeing this group of heavily armed people, Uncle Joe narrowed his eyes and said, "Where did these people come from? How did they target the fish farm so quickly?" Jojo calmly said, "They're probably the ones helping Lin Jia smuggle weapons." Hearing this, everyone looked at Jojo in confusion. Jojo explained, "When I left the fish farm last time, I locked the gate and took the key to prevent anyone from discovering the supplies inside. But these people still blew up the gate with gunpowder, which means they knew there was more gunpowder inside. And the only ones who knew that had to be insiders." Hearing this, Zhou Ying said angrily, "So much supplies. But others got to it first." Jojo replied, "Not necessarily." Zhou Ying asked worriedly, "Are you planning to fight them? They have guns, you know." Jojo didn't explain further. Instead, he looked at Sha Bingbing and asked, "Sha Bingbing, can you sense how many zombies are still underground in the fish farm?" Hearing this, Sha Bingbing nodded slightly and spread her ability toward the direction of the fish farm. It didn't take long before she finished sensing. Then she told Jojo, "There are 52 zombies inside the fish farm. 45 of them are ordinary. 6 have golden cores. Probably second grade." Sha Bingbing paused for a second, then continued seriously, "There's also a different zombie among them. Larger and stronger than the others, with a black object in its head." Jojo said calmly, "Probably a third-grade zombie. The underground space of the fish farm is huge. They can't use guns inside. They may not be able to clear all the zombies, especially with a third-grade one. We can wait for them to fight the zombies, then just quietly observe for now." Hearing this, Zhou Ying, standing nearby, immediately got excited. He stomped his foot and said, "Right, we can make the tigers fight each other." Just then, Zhou Shu raised his hand and said, "Hold on. Looks like someone's coming." Hearing this, Jojo immediately became alert. Then he saw a figure on the distant road, aiming a gun at them. Seeing this scene, Jojo shouted loudly, "Get down!" Facing the overwhelming firepower, Jojo said solemnly to Zhou Shu, "Brother, split up." Zhou Shu responded without hesitation, "Got it. I'll draw him from above. You block him from below." Jojo nodded and immediately charged from one side. The figure on the road, seeing Zhou Shu and Jojo's actions, jumped over the guardrail, trying to escape into the woods. But just as he crossed the guardrail, Jojo was already beside him. Before he could react, Jojo slammed his palm onto his forehead. The man spun once in the air and passed out. Seeing the unconscious enemy, Jojo said flatly, "Done. Let's take him back and get more intel." Just then, Zhou Shu shouted loudly at Jojo from a distance. As Zhou Shu finished speaking, a huge explosion erupted at Jojo's position. After the explosion, a deep crater remained, and the enemy Jojo had captured was reduced to just one arm. Thanks to Jojo's quick reflexes, he dodged behind a tree before the explosion. In shock, Jojo noticed that where the explosion happened, there was a marble. Hiding behind a tree, Zhou Shu reminded him again. It's an ability user. At that moment, in the distant woods, the sound of breaking wind could be heard. Jojo looked closely and saw multiple marbles being shot toward their hiding place. The tree behind Jojo snapped under the powerful force of the marbles. One marble even grazed Jojo's hand. Seeing this, Zhou Shu worriedly asked, "Zhou Z, are you okay?" Looking at his scratched hand, Jojo said calmly, "Just a scratch." Then he asked, Did you see where it came from? Zhou Shu answered seriously. They're coming from multiple directions at once. We can't pinpoint the exact location. But judging from the sound, the marbles are being launched from far away. Zhou asked in confusion. Launched? Zhou Shu explained. Yes, just like a pinball machine. But instead of bumpers, it's trees here. And we're the target holes. As Zhou Shu finished speaking, more marbles were shot over from afar. Seeing this, Zhou thought to himself. As expected, hiding is useless. That guy must be able to see us. But the marbles are shot from far away. That's contradictory. To accurately track us in the woods, the enemy must be nearby. Unless there's another ability user. After Zhou cleared the zombies hidden in the woods, Zhou Shu finally sighed in relief. Then said with confusion. The marble attacks seem to have stopped. Zhou said flatly. Looks like I was right. They were using that zombie to observe us. Upon hearing this, Zhou Shu said quickly. So there are two ability users? Zhou replied, remaining cautious. Maybe it's not just two of them. At that moment, Zhou Ying on the road shouted anxiously and loudly. Big brother, second brother. Get in the car, quick. The people at the fishery are moving. Looks like they've spotted us. Hearing this, Zhou and Zhou Shu thought about the unknown enemy configuration, realizing that fighting head-on would be disadvantageous. So they decided to retreat and plan next steps. In the distant woods, a blonde-haired man said irritably, What the hell? Just let them run away like that? Fathead, seriously? Don't screw up at critical times. We were having fun here. Why did you turn off the shared vision? The man called Fathead was leisurely putting on lipstick. Hearing the blonde man's complaint, he replied calmly. Didn't you see that last kick? The head was gone. How could I see anything? Then he added flirtatiously. But those two little cuties had pretty good moves. They didn't look like ordinary people. After a moment of silence, Fathead turned around and questioned the blonde man. Why did you kill the employer's man? How are you going to explain it to them? The blonde man replied indifferently. If he got caught, of course he had to die. Just say it was those two kids who killed him. Besides, the job was to clear the zombies at the fishery anyway. A few dead normal people are no big deal. As the blonde man finished speaking, a bald old man slowly walked over. Looking at the two men, he said darkly, Enough playing around. The cold storage door is open. Get in and get to work. Meanwhile, when Zhou and others returned home, Zhou Ba and Zhou Shu were still nervously watching outside. They even wiped away the car tracks on their way back. Zhou Ying, worried, said, Those guys actually shot at us. Will they come looking for us? After a long silence, Zhou spoke slowly. They probably won't for now. Their main target is still the supplies at the fishery. Before that, they won't want unnecessary trouble. But once they fully control the fishery, they'll definitely come for us. Hearing this, a strong sense of crisis immediately weighed heavily on everyone. After a while, Zhou Ying forced a smile and said, No need to be afraid. Didn't second brother say there's a third-grade zombie at the fishery? And there's gunpowder underground. They can't even use guns. They won't take it that easily. Maybe they'll all be wiped out by the zombies. Zhou Shu retorted calmly. They have ability users among them. Even without guns, they can still handle the zombies. Hearing this, Zhou Ying asked dejectedly. Then what do we do? Zhou Ma said coldly. If they really dare to attack us, we'll fight to the death. Zhou Ba also agreed from the side. That's right. Anyone who dares to touch my family, I'll send them straight to hell. Then he looked at Zhou Ying and said, Yingzi, help me make some more explosives later. We'll make sure they don't get to leave. Hearing this, Zhou Ying nodded excitedly. Seeing this scene, Zhou's heart was still filled with worry. He remembered in his previous life. It had taken 2 whole months before anyone found Qingshan village. But this time, it only took a week. And judging from their gear and movements, they must be trained armed forces. Their firepower far surpasses ours. Not to mention they have the fishery's explosives. Plus, there are still many second-grade zombies at the fishery. Once they consume golden cores, they'll become even harder to deal with. Waiting any longer would basically be a death sentence. But recklessly attacking is equally risky. Just as Jojo was worrying internally, a hand rested on his hand. Then he saw Sha Bingbing smiling and saying to Jojo, "It'll be fine. Trust your family." At that moment, the radio on the table crackled with Huang Dao's anxious voice. "Hello, hello? Anyone there? This is Huang Dao." Jojo immediately replied. "This is Jojo. What's wrong?" Huang Dao responded through the radio again. "Jojo. Thank goodness. We're at the hardware store. There's a situation here. We found a living person collapsed inside." Hearing that, Jojo immediately widened his eyes and shouted, "What? Tie that person up first." Huang Dao asked confusedly, "What's going on? Why?" Jojo didn't explain further. Just anxiously urged, "Don't ask, just do it." Following that, he rushed out the door. He ordered the others to guard the house. Inside, Jojo thought to himself, "It must be a scout from that group. They found us this quickly? I absolutely can't let him get away alive." Soon, Jojo arrived at the hardware store where Huang Dao was. As soon as he arrived, Li Qin, who was waiting outside, immediately approached and said, "Jojo, you're here. We went to the hospital this morning. We found a lot of medicine." But Jojo didn't have time to care. He just briefly said, "Thanks for the effort," and headed straight inside. Seeing Jojo's cold reaction, Li Qin's expression became complicated. When Jojo found Huang Dao, he immediately asked, "Where's the person?" Huang Dao pointed to the side and said, "Over here, tied up tightly." Jojo walked up to the man, examined him carefully, and realized this person didn't seem to be with those enemies. When he saw the man's face clearly, Jojo's face was full of disbelief. He said in confusion, "Takahashi Bey?" The tied-up Takahashi Bey slowly opened his eyes at that moment. In the next second, he realized he was tied up, and immediately screamed in fear. Before Jojo could explain, Takahashi Bey directly activated his ability and phased into space, vanishing from sight. Jojo immediately shouted, "Calm down. We've met before." Takahashi Bey reappeared right behind Li Qin. He then grabbed Li Qin and shouted, "Don't come closer. Move and I'll kill her." Huang Dao raised his hands and said, "Calm down. We mean no harm." Takahashi Bey still warily held onto Li Qin and said nervously, "Save it. I know you're trying to kill me. Don't come any closer." After a brief standoff, Jojo said calmly, "Then go ahead and do it." Hearing that, Takahashi Bey looked terrified. He stammered, You think I won't?" Jojo replied, "I don't know if you will. But if you really intended to, you would have done it already. Likewise, if we really wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead." Takahashi Bey still asked warily, "Then why did you tie me up?" Jojo said helplessly, "If a stranger suddenly appeared at your home, what would you do?" Hearing that, Takahashi Bey slowly relaxed. He said quietly, "So you're saying you're not bad people?" Jojo looked at him and replied, "What do you think?" After struggling internally for a moment, Takahashi Bey let go of Li Qin and muttered, I want beef noodles." Back at home, everyone watched Takahashi Bey devour beef noodles with pure joy, all with speechless expressions. watching him wolf down the food. Uncle Joe asked curiously, "Is he the guy you ran into? In the back hills?" Joe nodded. On the side, Joe Ying said disdainfully, "Him? Are you sure? He looks just like a sloppy freeloader uncle." Joe stared at Takahashi Bay, puzzled because Takahashi Bay felt completely different from the first encounter. Moreover, Takahashi Bay seemed to have no memory of him. After that, Joe activated his ability to examine him. Takahashi Bay's attribute panel appeared before Joe. Takahashi Bay. Male. Age, 28. Ability. Spatial teleportation. Ability tier. Upgrade requirement. 2nd grade zombie core. 2. Chance to evolve to high tier stage. 15%. Original core required for advancement. 1. Looking at the panel information, Joe grew even more puzzled. He remembered Takahashi Bay saying his ability was tier 3. Why was it showing tier 1 now? Was he lying? Pretending not to know him? Or maybe he really lost his memory? After scarfing down several bowls of noodles, Takahashi Bay finally put down his chopsticks. He said contentedly, "Thank you so much. If I hadn't run into you guys, I'd probably have starved to death." Joe replied speechlessly, "No need for thanks. Takahashi Bay asked confusedly. "Huh? Talk about what?" Joe asked. "How did you get to our village?" Upon hearing that, Takahashi Bay answered hesitantly, "Well, it's a bit hard to explain. You might not believe it, but I teleported here to escape." Joe asked in confusion. "Escape? Encountered zombies?" Gao Chaobei immediately replied, "Yes. They chased me all the way out of the city. In a panic, I closed my eyes and ended up here." Then Gao Chaobei looked at Joe and the others, and noticed their very calm expressions. He asked in confusion, "You're reacting so calmly? When I said I teleported, you didn't even question it?" Joe ignored his question, and continued asking, "So you came from the city?" Gao Chaobei nodded and said, "Yes." Uncle Joe on the side asked, "How's the situation in the city now? Has the army been deployed? Have the zombies been wiped out?" Upon hearing Uncle Joe's question, Gao Chaobei seemed to recall something terrifying. After frowning deeply, he finally spoke slowly. "The situation in the city is very bad. On the first day the zombies appeared, there was chaos across the streets. The scene was extremely chaotic. Many people were bitten to death by zombies, and many were either trampled to death or hit by cars. I found a garbage heap and barricaded myself inside. The cries and screams outside kept echoing in my ears. I kept comforting myself, telling myself someone would rescue me tomorrow. But no rescue came the next day. The whole city was overrun by zombies. Some people struggled on in despair. Others couldn't bear it and chose suicide." At this point, Joe interrupted. "No need for so many details. Just get to the point." Gao Chaobei gestured okay, and continued, "I couldn't hold on anymore. Just when I was about to give up, I received this message." Joe looked at the message on Gao Chaobei's phone. His eyes filled with shock. "The selected ones are the new humans. This message was sent by them. But it's only the 2nd day. In the previous life, it took more than a month after the outbreak for ability users to appear. They couldn't have known about the Golden Core incident before ability users appeared." Thinking of this, Joe's pupils slightly contracted. Could it be that among them, someone else has also been reborn? At this moment, Uncle Joe spoke up. "So even in the city, someone knows about the Golden Core?" Upon hearing this, Gao Chaobei exclaimed in shock. "You've seen the Golden Core?" Zhou Ying replied proudly. "Not only have we seen it, the 3 of us have eaten it." Hearing that Joe and the others had eaten the Golden Core, Gao Chaobei said in disbelief, You all ate it? Did you all awaken abilities? Zhou Ying smugly replied. Of course. Gao Qiaobei envied their good fortune. He then said dejectedly, if only my teammates were as lucky as you. After a while, Gao Qiaobei explained. On the third day after the zombie outbreak, to survive, I joined a team of over 100 people. Besides gathering supplies, we often went out to hunt zombies. It took about 2 days. And we found 5 golden cores. Then the 5 team leaders decided to keep the golden cores for themselves. The rest of us didn't get any. Everyone was furious. They were the first to eat the golden cores. However, only the leader successfully awakened an ability. The other 4 turned into monsters and were killed by the leader's blade. By the 4th day, the leader took us to fight with other groups over supplies. As a result, the leader clashed with an ability user from the opposing group. This triggered a full-scale battle between the groups. As the conflict intensified, the group needed more people to awaken abilities. So many of us in the group, including me, were forced to eat golden cores. Many among us gradually became more and more bloodthirsty, more and more insane. Later, I couldn't take it anymore and fled. But I ended up being chased by a horde of zombies. Fortunately, I awakened my ability and barely managed to survive. After listening to Gao Qiaobei's story, Uncle Joe frowned and said, ability users actually slaughter each other over supplies. Zhou Ying chimed in from the side. After hearing this, I think I'd better just stay in the village. The city is way too scary. Gao Qiaobei agreed and said, yeah, staying here is great. There's food, drinks, and it's safe. I've decided. I'm staying here from now on. Zhou struck a blow to his hopes. I'm afraid it's not as safe here as you think. Upon hearing this, Gao Qiaobei looked puzzled. Then Zhou explained. We've recently run into some trouble. If you want to keep enjoying good food and drink, you'll have to help us.